Good morning, convening today's Committee on Transportation for our Tuesday, March 24th, 9 a.m. agenda here at the Hawaii State Capitol in Conference Room 430. Thank you folks for your patience and the delayed start time, just trying to get everything ready for this morning. Thank you for folks who submitted their testimony on time, and thank you for being continually engaged in the process. This is one of our last substantive agendas before we head into resolutions for the legislature. So thank you folks for your patience, and I anticipated all of these bills would take a little bit more time than normal. That's why they're also on today's agenda. Okay, and for the purpose of testimony, I want to share that my staff sent out the PDF version to committee members. They had trouble getting the red leaf on, but we did process it, so you folks had ample time to review. Also the public as well, so I want to thank them for processing over 400 pages of testimony. I think we're up to 400 pages, including the bills. So with that, also when you're testifying today, I just ask if you can confine yourself to the 2-minute time as we set forth in the committee to continue allow other folks to testify as well. So with that, our first agenda item on our first measure on today's agenda is SB 2694 SD2 relating to water carriers, authorizes the Public Utilities Commission to establish automatic adjustment mechanisms to address economic factors sponte on an application by a water carrier, requires the Public Utilities Commission to establish a water carrier inflationary cost index automatic adjustment mechanism, authorizes the Public Utility Commission to waive or exempt any water carrier from any requirement under the Hawaii Water Carrier Act, sunset 7/1/2033, effective 7/1/2050. Vice Chair for testimony, please.
Department of Transportation in support.
You're muted, Deputy. So can't hear you. I see your mic is off. It could be us. Hold on.
Someone says they can hear it in the Zoom.
They can hear it in the Zoom.
Yeah. It's odd.
Deputy, you wanna try again? Yeah, I still can't hear you. Hold on. Deputy, let me come back to you. Wait, hold on. Can you try now?
Can you hear me?
There we are.
Perfect.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Deputy.
Okay.
Yay, technology.
Deputy Director Khalidi.
Thank you for hearing this bill. The Department of Transportation stands on its written testimony in strong support, and we're available for questions. Thank you.
Thank you. DCCA Division of Consumer Advocacy with comments.
Chair, Vice Chair, members, Mickey Knox for the Consumer Advocate. I just wanted to highlight one thing really quickly. In YB's last rate case, they were required to submit a business plan. A lot of that business plan is about cost control. So respectfully, we think that they should be focusing less on automatic rate increases and more on implementing that business plan and finding cost control. I'm available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Department of Agriculture and Biosecurity in support.
Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee, from the Department of Agriculture and Biosecurity, we stand in our written testimony and support. Thank you for questions.
Thank you. Public Utilities Commission with comments.
Morning, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee, and Sumtani with Public Utilities Commission. We stand on a written testimony. We're available for any questions.
Thank you. Reuse Hawaii in support. ABC Stores in opposition. AARP Hawaii with comments. Maui Chamber of Commerce in opposition.
I'd like to speak if I may.
Sorry, hold on. Oh, is this
Yes.
Yes,
Yes, go
okay,
ahead, Pam.
thank you.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate the opportunity to be here with you today and hope you'll read our full testimony, but wanted to make some key points. We feel this issue hasn't been well publicized. It's not on the nightly news. There has not been an extended time frame for public testimony like we see months prior when the PUC hearings are going to happen. So, we've been working hard to make sure impacted businesses are aware of this, not only across Maui, but across the state. And we are seeing industry groups align and ringing in, representing hundreds of businesses statewide and thousands of employees. Yet it's been hard to mobilize, especially in the recent storms. However, we did do, as we promised to do at a recent meeting, a survey, and we are getting survey responses. And so I wanted to share a few. On how much shipping costs affect your pricing, 35% said major impact, 40% said significant impact, meaning 75% said major or significant impacts. Only 25%, 10% moderate, and 15% said minimal. Do you support YB's ongoing rate structure with increases in bills? 85.71% said no. Only 14.29% said they were unsure and need more information. They could have also said yes, but they didn't. Do you believe automatic rate increases for YB will result in higher costs of goods for consumers across the state? 95% said yes. Do you feel ratepayers are at a disadvantage given YB's service monopoly? 85.71% said yes. Do you feel local manufacturing will be hurt by these bills? 100% said yes. The Public Utilities Commission denied Young Brothers' rate request for a water carrier inflationary cost index in the 2025 approval rate increase and prohibited rate increases for 2 years. We support their stance. We've detailed the words of the PUC in their decision and order number 42-100 on the approval of rate increases for Young Brothers prior to establishing any kind of automatic rate adjustment mechanism, such as a WICI. The commission finds that Young Brothers must first demonstrate that it is prudently operating its business. This was sort of just mentioned, including managing expenses and debt and maximizing operational efficiencies. Otherwise, the operation of a WICI may inadvertently serve to offset inefficiencies in other areas and mask shortcomings of YB's operations to the detriment of consumers who ultimately bear these higher costs. And not said by them, but us, pass those costs on to all Hawaii's residents. In our testimony, we discussed the issue of the monopoly and our concerns with that. I won't go through that now. While this draft of the bill does delay automatic rate increases for 2 years, we are concerned that the bill will already be in place without a meaningful opportunity to make changes as residents and businesses learn more about it. Our goal is to get YB information through the survey to
Can I
help
ask you
them
to summarize, please?
Yes, I'll finish. I am finished. That we feel that we need to all come to the table and work on this in the next year with YB as a critical partner, hearing from the PUC and stakeholders and the customers. So mahalo for the opportunity to provide testimony today.
Thank you. And
Thank
for
you.
folks testifying on Zoom, if you're able to, please have your camera on and available. Vice
I
Chair.
will for future
Thank you,
testimony.
Pam.
My apologies.
No worries.
Valley Isle Enterprises in opposition. Local Food Coalition with comments. Hawaii Restaurant Association in opposition. Hawaii Harbors Users Group in support. Hawaii Food Industry Association in opposition.
Hi, can you hear me?
Hi, yes.
Hi. Thank you guys for allowing me the opportunity to testify. I really appreciated the opportunity to meet with Chair earlier with representatives from YB and some of our board members, as well as the Maui Chamber of Commerce and a few other industry groups. I thought it was a really productive conversation. We continue to have conversations, including yesterday, we met, our Director of Operations met with Young Brothers individual who's been named for helping with some of the customer service issues. And we do hope that we continue to make progress on that. And we do believe that that was the intent of the PUC's decision in which they explicitly have designated somebody to review customer service issues, have a more detailed budget plan put forward. And with this rate increase that they just provided, they had offered a 2-year pause on rate increases so that we can see if we can make progress on some of these other key issues that we believe are driving costs at a really fast pace, a pace that outpaces any other comparable shipping entity. And I realize there's no apples to apples comparison because there's no other inter-island shipper, but that's sort of the whole point. Our members are just deeply concerned about the cost of living. 1 in 3 people cannot afford enough food to eat. As we live in an island state, shipping is a huge cost of living piece of the puzzle. And with the recent war, separate and apart from this bill, we know that the fuel surcharges will increase. And that is separate and apart from base rate increases, which is what we're talking about today. So whether or not you pass this bill, consumers are already going to be hurting. If you pass this bill, it would make it even worse. We urge you to not pass this bill. And if you do, to please adopt the PUC's amendment. They are the regulatory agency that has all of the financial data necessary, and we believe that they should be allowed to regulate this entity. Thank you very much for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you. Matson Navigation in support. Malolo Hospitality in opposition. Hawaii Pilots Association in support. Maui Hotel and Lodging in support. Young Brothers in support.
Aloha, my name is David Veltri. I'm Associate General Counsel for Young Brothers, where I work on regulatory and legal matters. YB stands in strong support of this measure, including the implementation of interim inflationary rate adjustments, also known as WICI, which was the Hawaii Water Carrier Working Group's top recommendation. This would start the much-needed process of modernizing the regulatory framework for local water carriers. Let me explain. So, inter-island water carriers like YB play a vital role in our supply chain. Their rates are regulated like a traditional public utility as a result, and that's based on essentially the regulatory compact, which is a balancing act. And I'm going to oversimplify it for all the PUC and CA people who know all the details of this, but basically on one hand, you've got the customers who receive a service, and on the other hand, the utility is allowed to charge rates to cover reasonably incurred costs and a fair return on that service, or to make that service necessary. Under current regulation, these rates can only be adjusted through a complicated regulatory process known as a rate case. And these rate cases are expensive, time-consuming, and often they can get really contentious for everyone involved. The rate cases process was obviously designed to protect consumers, but the practical effect is extended periods of stagnant rates while costs to provide service rise. This creates a cycle where rates and costs start drifting really far apart, and under recovery starts to accumulate, financial pressures build, and large disruptive rate increases are required to catch up after years of delay. This cycle has real consequences. Capital for reinvestment becomes really expensive and less available to the water carrier that's providing those services. Short-term cash management starts to become prioritized, often at the expense of long-term savings. And larger rate increases, of course, means more contentious rate cases, which means more expensive rate cases, which means more costs are being passed on to customers. So WICI is just a common sense modernization tool designed to address these challenges. It doesn't replace or reduce regulation. It doesn't mean YB can stop working to improve. There are clear guardrails to address the exact concerns that are being raised, including a cap at 5% and a mandatory rate review that will reset rates every third year.
David, if you can summarize, please.
Yeah, in short, annual WICI adjustments help keep rates aligned with real costs, support sustainable operations, and keep our local supply chain strong. Mahalo for this opportunity to testify.
Thank you. The Maritime Group in support. Grassroots Institute of Hawaii in opposition. Not present. Central Pacific Youth Athletic Club, Tough Man Hawaii in support. John Lucas Port Manager from Young Brothers in support. Maui Brewing Company in opposition. Ashley Kishimoto from Young Brothers in support. Not present. Hawaii Island Chamber of Commerce in opposition. Construction Industry of Maui in opposition. Maui Printing Company in opposition. West Maui Taxpayers Association in opposition. Oneheke Corporations with comments. Japanese Chamber of Commerce and Industry of Hawaii in opposition. Kona Kohala Chamber of Commerce in opposition. Big Island Motors in support. Steve Hunt, individual in support on Zoom.
Morning, Chair Keela, Vice Chair Miyake, members of the House Committee on Transportation. I'm Stephen Hunt. I'm currently serving at the privilege of Mayor Kawakami on Kauai, but I wanted to emphasize that today's testimony I give is on behalf of myself as an individual and as a former member of the Hawaii Water Carriers Working Group, where I served as the chair for the small group on rates. While I stand by my written testimony, I wanted to add a few key points. The objective of WIKI was to achieve something that was both for the consumer, which was to avoid these large step-ups after rate cases, so there'd be something more incremental. And from the water carrier side, it was to ensure that in between the cases, there wasn't always a catch-up that was maybe 3-4 years behind their operational costs, that it was more timely, and that the safeguard and the rails that would still be on would be having that 3-year mandatory rate case as sort of a equalizing to vet what those increases could be. There was a maximum of 5% set on that, regardless of what the inflation was. I think the other thing that is very important is if the water carrier were operating as a free market, they wouldn't have the same route schedules that they have. I think that's something that someone really, that people really haven't accounted for, the fact that they're running 3 weekly routes to Maui, 2 to Kauai, 2 to Hilo, 2 to Kauai High, 2 to Molokai, and 1 to Lanai each week. These aren't necessarily all profitable routes. There, at least at the time I was on the rate committee, there were a couple profitable routes, but many were negative earners, meaning they cost more than they generated in revenue, and that they didn't necessarily have to make those based on a load volume, that they were running them because it was a required run. And I get that because of the agricultural products and things that need to be moved on a timely basis so they don't rot on the docks. But in reality, you're essentially, the regulatory issues on these are forcing them to run a schedule that is not necessarily in sync with how a private company would be running this to have, the most profit. So that's something I wanted to emphasize. And the other thing, I guess, is more the concept of penny wise, pound foolish. Salt Chuck is no longer subsidizing the water carrier YB's losses, and if we were to lose these, they can only incur hemorrhaging cash and negative earnings for so long. I know they're already negotiating with some of their lenders, and we're on the verge of being in default. Losing the carrier altogether would be tragic, and I think the barriers to entry, given the high cost of capital.
Steve, if you can summarize, please.
Sure. Just the high cost of capital and the regulatory environment would be very difficult to attract the suitors. So I stand by that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Councilmember Tom Cook from Maui County in support. Councilmember Kawanoi Batangan, councilmember from Maui County in support. 2 individuals in support, 3 in opposition, and 1 with comments. Anyone online or in person wishing to testify on SB 2694 SD2? Seeing none.
Thank you, members. I'm sure we have questions. So I'm going to start with PUC, please.
Yes.
Morning.
Good morning.
What is the history of PUC's acquisition or regulatory framework of water carriers?
Can you repeat
What is the history for the inception of regulation of water carriers?
the history?
Yes.
We used, it's based on the statute, the 271G, right?
And that was enacted when?
I have to look it up, I'm not sure.
So was the intent to treat water carriers like a public utility?
Yes.
And but
I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, but what technically oversight does the PUC then treat the water carrier as a utility in that framework?
We regulate them as like any public utility.
Okay. I think largely, I think one of the biggest things I've drawn concern with, I think, is setting forth this unobtainable expectation that if we regulate this industry, that we're also just gonna continue to be the ones to have to take the brunt for it, right? I'm not criticizing that, but I think it like sets this false expectation or reality for the public that if we're gonna do this for like as a utility, right, they are still an independent company. And so I don't wanna put you on the spot, but the PUC, you folks have political autonomy, right?
Please go, I'm sorry.
Political autonomy,
Yeah, yes, yeah.
in the sense where nobody from the,
We're supposed to be quasi judicial,
right,
yeah.
so nobody from the executive branch ever interferes or tells you when or when not to hear cases.
Well, the commissioners make the decision, yeah, on their own. I mean, they take all the information that the staff and stakeholders put together in the record, so the decision is based on what is in the record.
Would you be able to comment on why there was such a delay for hearing or opening the rate case? Cause this was open twice, right?
Right. I think what happened is that they actually asked for an emergency rate increase. Yeah. Right, yeah, so we granted that within a short period of time, you know, to look at it, and then we actually gave them an 18% increase for the temporary rate increase. And then we went into the actual rate case, which was a few months later, which we rendered the decision in December.
But the docket was left open for that whole time for a decision. Was that several months?
Well, we had an older one, right? The older one that was concluded, right?
Yeah.
The 0117 docket that was concluded. And then we opened this docket, and it was suspended because I think it's just that we had the wiki and we weren't
The
sure.
proposed wiki.
The proposed wiki, yeah,
Right.
yeah, I'm sorry, the proposed wiki it was actually part of the rate case at that time. It was separate, and then we decided to include that in the rate case in terms of making a decision.
Do you folks have administrative rule authority to adopt the wiki?
So that's one question we're still kind of looking into right now. That's why we wanted some clarity from the ledge on that.
Okay.
Yeah, in terms of like whether we have the authority to establish a
Right.
wiki. Now that's why we said in doing a rate case we can change the rates at that time. But going back, the reason in terms of the wiki itself, we're not against or for it. We just want to make sure they establish a history of financial stability before we implement it. I've talked to a few attorneys on our side, and some say that it's possible that we could actually open a new proceeding just for the wiki. So that's one thought, one possibility. But first, we want to make sure they establish that financial stability, the history, right? And like the CA mentioned earlier, that we just recently actually approved the rate increase, right, 25.75 increase in December, and it's forward-looking, right, in terms of how what the business is moving forward. In addition, we have the updated business plan from Young Brothers, which includes the costs. They're looking at costs, revenue, everything. The LCL cargo, which is the
Can you tell the committee what LCL is?
The cargo that actually they actually containerize. They have to actually put inside the containers. So it's actually individually stacked. YB can talk more about that, but that's one of the costs. It's more labor intensive, I think that's why, versus containers which are already packed, right? So that's why it takes more time and effort on that part. So more labor intensive, I would say. So that's one thing they're looking to in terms of efficiencies in the business plan. And then on top of the business plan, we have a special observer that's going to, which we did an RFP for that, and we're hopefully going to have that special observer in place by July or soon, and that person would make sure they monitor the implementation of the updated business plan.
Do any other of the utilities have independent?
Other utilities? Oh yeah. Well, with
the
ECO,
observer.
yeah, we have multiple. To give an example for the community-based regulation, community-based renewable energy docket, we have an IO for that. For the IGP, the integrated grid planning, we have an IO, independent observer, and an IE, independent engineer too as well. Yeah.
For the future plan.
For future planning, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, hold on. Does anybody have a question for PUC? Rep. Cochran.
Thank you. Good morning.
Yes, good morning.
So I see you have neither gone for or against, you submitted comments,
Yes,
right? So I'm noticing first off that you're changing the shalls to mays
correct,
to give you the opportunity of flexibility.
correct.
And so did you hear Ms. Tue Mar's testimony from Maui Chamber of Commerce? Are you familiar with what she was speaking towards
About,
at all?
for the consumer, that the cost on the consumers?
Well, besides that, but that currently you already have a prohibition on a 2-year rate
Right.
increase
It-
currently as we sit here.
So the order itself says a 2-year stay out period, but then if the YB can still come to us if for some, if you have an emergency for any reason, they can come to us for and request a rate increase. But for the period, for 2-year period, we told them a stay out period.
Right, but so I think the other point to that, through Ms. Tue Mar, was that this bill undermines that. This prohibition that you've already implemented.
Right.
Right, I mean, are you in
Yeah, I mean,
agreement with
it's,
that?
yeah, I mean, we would prefer to have that in place, that 2-year stay out, yeah.
You prefer to have it currently as is.
Right,
basically,
exactly,
this
what we put in
prohibition.
the order, basically, yeah,
Right,
yes.
okay, I just wanted some clarity on that.
And that's why we have the May, right, so it gives us the
Yes.
option, yeah.
Yes, and I mean, that's okay, I just wanted clarification on that.
Okay.
Thank you,
Thank
thank you,
you.
Chair.
Okay, right. Members, any other questions for PUC? Yes,
Not for PUC.
okay. Thank you.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Could I ask YB? Morning. Can you share with the committee what LCL was that was just discussed?
What is LCL? LCL stands for less than container load. So to give you some additional information about that, I guess prior to 1970, the shipping industry was less containerized than it is today and progressively has become more containerized. So, excuse me. So basically, LCL is things like that are not in containers. It's less than container load. So it's things that are on pallets. It could also mean just loose items that are placed into containers. So Young Brothers serves less than container load shipments. And that is something that's unique, or maybe not unique, but very unusual in 2026 as far as shipping companies go. We serve less than container load, whereas most shipping companies serve primarily just containers. It makes loading very efficient because you're only loading one container type. You can use the same type of loading equipment to load all pieces of cargo that are coming into your facility. Just to explain that.
Okay, and for inter-island cargo, you folks from your inception have been regulated by PUC.
Since I don't believe that's true, because Young Brothers was founded in 1900, and I don't think that the regulation began until I think 1970.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then when you folks are doing the inter-island cargo, do you folks subsidize any inter-island cargo?
It's internally subsidized. So the way that it works, let me explain internal subsidization. So Young Brothers is, as a regulated utility, there's certain services that we're required to provide, and those services and
Set
routes.
forth by PUC.
Well, Young Brothers sets them forth, and then the PUC approves them or denies them. And if there's any changes to those services or routes, then we need to go seek PUC approval for that as well. So you have a certain number of sailings to a certain number of ports and a certain number of commodity types, including LCL, that need to be served. And all of that's enshrined in our tariff, which the PUC approves or denies. And any changes to that tariff have to be approved by the Public Utilities Commission with the consumer advocates' input as well. So where cross-subsidization fits into all of this is like Stephen Hunt was saying, there's certain routes and certain services that are not generating enough revenue to cover the cost that it takes to serve them. And so when you have these more profitable routes, you take some of the additional revenues that you're earning from those more profitable routes, and you use those revenues to sort of subsidize these services and non-profitable routes to continue to make sure that universal service is still possible. And that's just what it means to be a regulated transportation.
So what service is subsidized?
So the non-profitable services, right now, I'm not the expert on this, and maybe Ashley Kishimoto, our director of finance can double check me here, but it's basically LCL services, some of the smaller ports like Molokai and Lanai, some of the more remote ports like Hilo. Those things cost more money to serve than the revenue that's currently being generated, but that fluctuates over time and with certain, economic events. If something, like for example, if there's a major construction project happening in one location, then all of a sudden there's a lot more volume going to that location, and that can change the economics of it.
Ashley, you have something.
So LCL, we
Can you introduce yourself to the committee?
Ashley Kishimoto, Director of Finance. Thank you for having us today. So LCL, we've said publicly, has lost over $25 million in a year to just provide that service. It has a lot of touch points because we are packing containers. So containers aren't just showing up for us that we just put on the barge. People are bringing individual pieces that then we are stacking and putting into a container. So we are acting as also a freight forwarder, not just moving the goods on ships. We are packing those goods. We've shipped freights of all kinds according to our tariff, and so that allows us, anybody to bring up, you could bring up your lamp to ship. You could bring up a washer, dryer, and we're shipping those and packaging them. Or if I'm a farmer in Hilo, I could be bringing, my crop of bananas, but I can't have enough to fill up an entire container. So I'm bringing out, putting it on a pallet, and that's getting loaded onto a barge.
So you guys are subsidizing crops pretty much.
Not just crops. I think sorry, go ahead.
What, subsidizing crops?
Crop
Well, we
product.
do have an agricultural discount for the shipping of locally grown produce. It's 30 to 35%, depending on whether it's LCL, 30%, or container load, 35%. We're trying to incentivize people to use containers because it's, more cost effective and it's just more efficient. So in that sense, that discount is cross subsidized, yes. But I mean, we're not, so yes, we're.
I think what I'm trying to figure out, right, so if you're subsidizing this industry, it's off the back of your other customers. You don't even have to say it like that, right, but
Yeah.
you're it's subsidizing somewhere.
That's what cross subsidization is, yes.
But that was put forth because of the PUC, or that was a good faith effort by YB?
These are policy decisions that have to be approved by the Public Utilities Commission. If you look in statute, there's actually a specific statute that enables the PUC to make policy decisions to give what they call preferential rates for agricultural customers. And I think that's the basis for the agricultural discount that the PUC approved.
Is that correct? Okay. Because we don't subsidize. So if you didn't have to subsidize, would we be in this situation? Or having this discussion?
That's speculative, but I think it's a large part of the problem. I think it's a big.
Because I think I would argue, I'm not against agriculture, right, but I'm like, there are other things like medical equipment, construction supplies that I think also subsidization would play into final cost. So I'm just trying to figure out where else we can look at, so.
Right.
If we're having this conversation.
Yeah, we definitely, we support the ag industry, and it's like a huge part of our business.
Well, I don't want you to say that you don't, of course. Yeah.
But yes, the rates are being subsidized. Right now, those subsidies are internal. It'd be great if they could be externalized, like through the general fund, some sort of general funding source, but I understand that those types of measures.
Yeah, I mean, there was legislation proposed this year, but my grave concern was like, we subsidize one industry that I said every industry should be on the table for discussion. That's not your position to say anything, but I think that's my concern, right? We want to subsidize this, then I think we should subsidize other things, or we don't, right? I think that's what I'm just trying to figure out where all of that. Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Kim. Does anybody have other questions for IB?
Sure.
Brett Puckry.
Sorry, were you?
No, go ahead.
Hi, thank you folks for being here. So I guess a bigger general question, you're aware of the other HB, there's a HB and SB, quite similar in this context. Do you prefer one over the other?
I think the differences between them are, I think that we should be having the discussion about the differences between those two bills. I do think that kind of the overarching concern of establishing financial stability is our primary objective, and I think both of them would accomplish that. And if you wouldn't mind, I'd like to address a question that you brought up earlier. through the Maui Chamber of
PUC.
Commerce's
Oh,
testimony.
Sure.
Yeah, so there was a quote that was read from the from the PUC's order, speaking about why they were denying Wiki, and I think Anon from the Public Utilities Commission kind of clarified something that I would like to just sort of emphasize, which is that part of the order that was not quoted, which was the following sentence, says, should YB return to a state of financial stability, the commission develops confidence in YB's ability to reasonably control its costs, it may revisit whether a wiki is appropriate at that time. So like the PUC was saying earlier, they're not necessarily opposed to wiki. And I mean, I think the company certainly agrees that there's operational improvements and efficiencies that need to be made. And we are working on them right now. And I think everyone agrees that there's financial instability that's causing a lot of problems for everybody. I think where the disagreement is happening is whether we can continue delaying the implementation of a tool to establish financial stability until financial stability has been established without it. It just seems like right now we're in a situation where we need to pull all of the levers. We need to do internal efficiency improvement and we need to do an updated regulatory structure. That's just where we're at. Otherwise, we're setting ourselves up to go through the same cycle that we've all just been through twice.
Follow-up, Chair?
Yes, please.
And thank you for that insight, and I think all businesses have to weigh all those things you just mentioned. So this auto adjustment allows you to do rate changes in between the rate cases, right? So this is like, there's rate cases going through you know the process, but in between, while that's being held or whatever, not progressing, you folks, this bill will allow you to just go ahead and wake up and, you know, adjust your rates.
Not exactly. So the way that the mechanism was designed by the Water Carrier Working Group, it's on a 3-year cycle. So there will be one automatic rate increase in year 1, and that would be tied to wharfage, capped at 5%. And then in year 2, there would be one automatic inflation increase tied to wharfage, capped at 5%. And then in year 3, there would be a rate case. And a rate case does not always mean that prices are going to go up. If we're being pulled in by the Public Utilities Commission to do a rate case, they're just reviewing our entire rate structure, top to bottom, building it up from the ground up. And they can say, hey, those automatic rate increases that you had in years 1 and 2, they've made your rate structure you're over earning under the rate structure now, and it needs to be knocked back down. So the mandatory aspect of that 3rd year rate case, it cuts both ways, and that's why it's a guardrail. It's not just another opportunity to add more rates. It could also be an opportunity for the PUC to cut us back down to where they think we should be. That's why it was designed this way by the Water Carrier Working Group. It's an attempt to provide stability in the interim, while also offering the opportunity for the more frequent opportunities for the PUC to basically reset our rates to levels where they should be.
Okay, and then, sorry, Chair, if you don't mind, okay, I understand that, but I guess some testimonies I've been deciphering are claiming that this will reduce public participation and scrutiny, you know, in between, because you folks have this now automatic, you know, increase procedure.
Well, I think, I'm not sure what that means, because we'd be required to go in for a rate case every 3 years, which currently we're not required to go in for every 3 years. So there'd be more frequent opportunities for review of Young Brothers rates than what currently happens today. The idea is that if you do this more frequently and more regularly, then the rate cases themselves become hopefully much less contentious, because there's much less rate increases that are gonna be needed if you haven't basically had 0% in year 1, 0% in year 2, leading up to the catch-up rate case in year 3.
And last, sorry,
Yep.
Chair, finally, currently PUC granted you 25.75% increase, and that's in effect, just started in January,
Yes.
is that right? And
Yes.
so are you, anticipating through this via this bill to increase even more? Cause wouldn't this give you that opportunity now?
I think that's exactly what the bill is designed to do. It's designed to prevent these large double-digit rate increases like the 25.75% rate increase by allowing us to do, spreading them out more. You know, year one and year two, we're gonna take an increase that cannot possibly be more than 5%. And then by the time you get to year three in that rate case, if the economics justify it, they're gonna, the rates are gonna be what the rates are gonna be based on the PUC's review and the CA's review as well. It's just gonna be built from the ground up based on our application, it's full review. And we're trying to avoid these large rate increases in the future, that's the point.
All right, well, thank you for your time and explanations. Thank you, Chair.
Sure.
Yes, thank you, Rep. Cochran. Okay.
Thank you, David.
Mhm.
In HFIA's testimony, you spoke about wharfage fees earlier. In their testimony, they said that wharfage rates do not accurately reflect the operational costs of inter-island water carriers and shall not be used as a primary driver of rate adjustment. Why is the wharfage fee a good index?
Okay, so when the water carrier working group originally was conceiving of this mechanism, the wiki mechanism, they wanted to do an inflationary increase. You have national metrics you can choose from, like CPI or GDPPI. There's of course way more specific ones that you could pick as well. And we basically decided that in this iteration of the bill that wharfage would be preferable to one of these national indexes, and the reason is because it's an existing maritime specific, state specific regulatory approach that's already used, and it's, I mean, by virtue of that alone, it's more specifically applicable to what Young Brothers is doing. It's our customers, every time that they pay a bill, they already pay wharfage, so they're used to seeing wharfage as a line item. It's essentially like a tax. The policy behind wharfage is that just the maritime industry, whether it's the actual vessels that are shipping or the docks that support those vessels, the docks and harbors and commercial ports that support those vessels, it's very capital intensive, as you can imagine. You're right by the ocean, there's a lot of salt water, there's a lot of heavy machinery. And so it creates a situation where you need to have something that accounts for the capital intensive nature of the industry. And wharfage does that for the State Department of Transportation Harbors Division, and we think it's directly applicable to us as well. And essentially what it is, just sorry to bring it back to the original intent, we need something that's tied to inflation to account for inflationary costs, which are real. Inflation is real. And this was the most specific targeted thing we could find that accounts for that.
Okay. One more question, Chair. So the PUC denied it, right?
Yep.
But why should we even do wiki if that's the case?
The PUC denied it. The PUC, I think it just goes back to what I was telling Rep. Cochran, which is that the PUC is asking us to return to a state of financial stability before they allow us to have a tool to establish financial stability. What we're asking the PUC to do, and what we're asking the legislature to do, is to give us the tool that's necessary to establish financial stability. Because at this point, given the level of financial deterioration, we need to use all the tools available to us, not just internal cost cutting. That's super important. We have to do that. We have a business plan. The PUC's monitoring us closely on that. They've installed a special overseer to help that progress along. But on top of that, we also don't want to end up in another cycle again that leads to another large rate increase where we're having a contentious rate increase and everybody's angry and it's very expensive to get through. It's just going to continue to repeat the same cycle that we've been through twice now. So
I appreciate that. Thank you for your response.
Sure.
Thank you, Chair.
Members, any other questions for Wavy?
Yes. Oh, sorry, go ahead. I did already, go ahead.
Oh, Rep. Cochran.
Yeah, thank you. And so I just had we all wanna make more money, But are you also looking at ways for businesses and consumers to save?
Yes.
And so I think the one in this version of the bill is to exempting the auto adjustments for agriculture, agriculture people, which I think Chair Keela brought up. So yeah, I just was wondering where,
Well,
instead of just looking at increase and spreading out the wide load in small incremental
I think
portions, where's
yeah.
the savings? Perhaps there is.
Ashley, do you want to take a stab at this?
Budget person.
Okay, well, yeah, I think right now, we're trying to establish financial stability, and I understand that in the short term, we're talking about small rate increases, more frequent rate increases, but that, to me, that actually ends up saving money in the long term. Because you don't have to spend, well, for one, you don't have to spend so much doing a contentious, expensive rate case. That's gonna, I think our last rate case cost $3 million. And you also don't do things that end up costing the company more money, like deferring vendor payments, deferring maintenance that could result in a more catastrophic failure in the future that could cost you more, because now you're financially stable. Now you don't have to pinch pennies and defer maintenance and avoid paying vendors and taking on those fees. Your cost of debt will also go down, because now your lenders will have more confidence in your ability to service that debt, and they won't charge you as high interest rates for it. So there's a lot of reasons why being more financially stable actually does save money for customers. But on top of that, we're also working to become more operationally efficient and lower costs overall. We are working on that, and we are being closely monitored on our ability to do that by both the PUC, their special overseer, and the consumer advocate. So we're being closely monitored on all of these efforts. And so I think that's the answer to how we're trying to help save money.
Well, thank you again for your explanations. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Rep. Cochran. Okay, members, any other questions? Keep to go.
And I guess I'll ask it to, not to.
Thank you, guys.
Sorry, thank you. Maybe I'll ask it to Maui Chamber if you're still on.
My chamber.
Yes, I'm still here.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thanks, Pamela. I thought maybe I'd ask you because you're one of the people who spoke about being in opposition to this bill, and having listened to the testimony as well as the question and answer, I guess my question is, if the water carrier or YB is unable to meet, their debt obligations, pay for their expenses, they no longer are in operation, they go under, are you aware of any regulatory mechanisms or other carriers who would be able to continue service to the neighbor island? And I think that was also brought up by Mr. Hunt, that there's that concern, and he shared it in his testimony. And just thinking about it, what's the other option for the neighbor islands?
Thank you for the question. And this is something that has come up it'll be 20 years this April that I've been with the chamber. We've long heard of the same concerns about, YB subsidizes these services, and what happens if YB couldn't subsidize the services. And first, I'll share something that hit me the other day, because when we had this small meeting the other day, the issue of a monopoly wasn't our top concern. Really, our top concern was our members and the concerns over the rates and how this was done. But and having transparency in the process for them to ring in. But as we were discussing the monopoly issue, and the president was there of YB, and they talk about the subsidy and they talk about how it's a loss leader. And so we asked, well, if we got rid of the language in the law that says, which makes it a monopoly, well, but they don't agree that there's a monopoly, but many of us do, and feel that there could be some minor tweaks to the language of the law that would take them out of the monopoly, because they also say, well, nobody else would do it. So there were some discussions, and there are some people who say that, yes, on this issue of the cost to do these larger boats that are coming in with less than container load, so not fully loaded, there are other boats in other areas that could be smaller boats and navigated within the neighbor islands. Are we concerned that if YB can't do it, Is that going to be a problem? And of course it would be a problem if we don't have any backup carriers. So I know some said they would reach out to other carriers in the state to see if they could do that. I've had a conversation. I thought it was interesting that YB mentioned today that some people are shipping on their carrier things like washers and dryers and lamps and small items. There are people who could do that, and Expedition, who also coincidentally falls under this water carrier service, could look at doing things like that that could go on their smaller ferry. Not obviously bigger things like containers, but they could do some of that. That doesn't mean they're willing to say yes today that they, would have to be some exploration. But currently, the way the law is written is also concerning if you think about it in another thing that came to me the other day after that meeting. Right now, YB has put the PUC and this legislature on notice that they're subsidizing this. And so to your point and your question, if they suddenly said one day that they can't, right? The law currently prohibits somebody else from coming in, which would mean that even if there was an emergency proclamation, we wouldn't have anybody ready, because why would any other business start pursuing taking on a service like this or even exploring it when the law currently prohibits them from doing so?
Okay,
And so I think that's something that has to be considered, and it has to be considered in the overall sustainability picture we're looking at.
okay, great. Thanks for the answer.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Remiake.
Since Pam is on. Hi Pam. I know we
Hi.
had a lot of robust discussions about Wiki. And I know, like, based on your testimony, that the automatic adjustment mechanisms are pragmatic. What alternative process do you recommend for us, or for YB or water carriers, to address the inflation increases?
So thank you, Tyson, for the question. And and again, in our conversations, I have not put together financial statistics. I don't have the bandwidth right now, both in terms of our capacity with many other things that we're dealing with, to analyze all of the data. Others have, and we've taken a look at that, and there's criticisms on both sides. So I will say this, the big challenge that we have with this bill is, I think your philosophy was, and I understand and heard that, right, that if we were looking at 5% and we were looking at that in year 1 and year 2, you were trying to stabilize, and others in this process were looking at how to try and stabilize both the company as well as what ratepayers would be hit with, right? So that we were trying to avoid these big, large rate increases. So a couple of things. One is that we believe in what the PUC is trying to do, which is understand and regulate this industry, really looking at these rate increases and say, we keep doing these big hits. We need to not be doing these big hits, but we also need to better understand YB's operations and fully have a report. In the meeting I was in, it was very clear that that report was not going to come to you in time for this legislative session. And also, even when the PUC finishes the report, we learned that because of the nature of the data, some of it which is proprietary, YB would then have an opportunity to review that report and would have to have the opportunity to, quote, sanitize it, that's my term, to make sure that no competitive information or proprietary information was released, because once it goes to the legislature, it's going to be out in the public. So we're a ways away from that. So we feel that this is just moving too fast. But what we do feel is the bigger issue was the capping at 5% over year 1 and year 2. If they couldn't then just go back and get a big rate adjustment in year 3, right? That while they got some money, over 2 years and then go back in for a rate adjustment is highly concerning. So to have that open-ended is highly concerning. Number 2, to the point of the gentleman who served on that committee, and to the gentleman from YB who spoke to it, they said, well, you could go back in year 3 and you might not see a big increase. In fact, they could say that the increase isn't warranted because, maybe you haven't made the strides in economic efficiencies and other things that you could do. So, but then if they said, well, we already gave you too much in year 1 and year 2, which conceivably could be up to 10%, it could also be less. How do we get the money back if we feel that they shouldn't have even gotten 10%? This doesn't give us a mechanism to retrieve money either if we then feel that even the adjustments along the way, did not equalize out at the end. So again, we feel that we need to take some time to really look at this comprehensively, bring the partners together. And by that, I mean lawmakers, YB, ratepayers, Department of Transportation, the PUC, and say, and I think that's what the PUC was saying. And again, yes, I would agree there was more context to that, but the context was not now, because we still don't have it and we still don't have that report. And we think that, quite frankly, to really look at comprehensive solutions, we should all be looking at that report and bringing everybody together. And in the past, there were opportunities where YB came to our membership and educated us before they went for a rate increase. And that hasn't happened of late. So yes, you're seeing a lot of concerns and you're seeing a lot of industry concerns. These are our concerns. And we did offer to do a free survey to help them better understand concerns. And I think we'll have more data later, but in the interim, as quickly as this is moving, we're just highly concerned that we're not going to be able to pull it all together. But I guess my solutions would be to say, look at systems where we can get more information. I don't know if there's any way to expedite that report. I know the PUC has a lot on their hands, but we feel more information is absolutely needed. And then we need to look at that year 3 and what considerations can be done. And if, for example, they ended up getting more and then it was not warranted, then how do we get that back? And we do feel that there are solutions to, again, another solution is taking out the monopoly language. So while YB says nobody else would bid on it, then there shouldn't be any fear of taking out that language, because they can still provide the services as they wish to do. See if there is any competitive bids, see if there's other solutions with smaller boats going in between the islands. On some of the services where they'd get more paid for the bigger lucrative services, where we're talking about bigger items that require those types of containers and their barges. But it's a lot to take in and it's a short period of time. So I can't come with any concrete thing because I feel like we need bigger discussions.
Can I follow up?
Yeah,
Chair?
please.
And thank you. I know it's a long discussion on the first agenda, but Pam, just to answer some of your questions, the 2 years, all right, the mandatory, that rate case, in year 3, it would require the PUC to do a full rate review. And that's the guardrail that is in place. So based off of the first 2 years, the full review will be on the 3rd year. One.
We understand that.
And I know you spoke about the smaller boats, expeditions. In his testimony, he stated that he only had 2 fare increases in 36 years. But also, when I served on the county as chief of staff, he was subsidized during COVID for just to keep running his Lahaina Lanai ferry. So that subsidy is not stated in here, but I know of that, right? And this is not a subsidy for YB. So I mean, if Expeditions is willing to go to Kauai High, Kauai, Lanai, Hilo, then we can have that discussion, but that's a passenger ferry, right? So it's not a barge ferry. And yes, like I know stated in YB's testimony, the lamp, the bananas and stuff, maybe he can carry that. But it is not apples to apples of water carriers. So I just wanted to state that. But you
Well, if I could respond to that point, Tyson. So, 2 points, and then I'm happy to go on. When I was talking about small, one, I agree with you. No, Expeditions could not carry bigger things. The ferries I was talking about with smaller boats was not Expeditions. Expeditions could carry those things that YB mentioned, like a washer and dryer and a lamp. There are, in discussions we've had with other areas, there are smaller boats that could be deployed that are not yet deployed to go between the islands. I'm just saying there's other solutions. And I'm not saying we have somebody lined up to do any other solutions. I'm saying we're just trying to identify what alternatives we could have. And in terms of when YB goes for a full rate increase, again, every time we see this rate increase, and they mention it's contentious, and part of the reason it's contentious, yes, is the multi-year issue. But another reason it's contentious is because we're always under the threat that what happens is the service goes out. And so we're always under the threat of we have to look at what they need and how to adjust the rates to move up. We rarely, there is some movement, and yes, we feel the PUC is the right person to do it. But when we get to these other rate increases, given what historically we have seen, and I know the wiki is trying to address that, but the public, still has great concerns. And again, we have great concerns because we don't have this report. And if we're talking about, transparency and belief in the system, then we need to see the facts that will help people believe that maybe there should be less concern in year 3 given the PUC's oversight. But showcase what the PUC's oversight has been and what they're trying to do, and that's not well understood at this point.
So Pam, how does your members address inflation? And would they prefer like smaller step increases, what Wiki is trying to do? Or do they prefer 0% of like status quo, what I asked you? And you've been serving for 20 years, you said, so I mean, stay status quo 0% across the board and then roll the dice and PUC will say, boom, 25.75%. Like, would your members prefer the more predictable rate capped at 5%, so no more than 5%, or stay how we are right now and nothing and 25.75%? And this is just over time, not it could be more, it could be less, right? So would your members,
I mean, we've had this conversation.
Would your members prefer?
Tyson, it's not that simple. I mean, obviously, that in terms of the concerns, right? They have come from big jumps, right? So it's been big jumps, and that is a part of the equation. But it is a broader issue. And as I shared with you earlier on, we are doing a survey which includes our members and others from across the state, and I could go over those numbers if you wish, and we will be updating the survey. We just launched it last Friday, so. The numbers will be increasing and the partnerships are increasing. But I think, again, as President Steen said himself in a news report, that one of the key mechanisms in this is, he said the first thing he would do, first and foremost, top priority was to work with his trusted and dedicated employees. Second priority was to meet with his ratepayers and customers. We are at a point where we need to have discussions with the ratepayers and customers. And we don't have that broad data. We're trying to get it as quickly as possible to help influence this process. I don't know that we will in that time frame. And we'd like to see the PUC's report. It's a broader issue and we have to discuss it. But, definitely do the ratepayers not want to keep seeing huge jumps? That would be accurate. But to say, is it one or the other right now when there's other issues coming to the table on complaints, fear of retaliation, damage, and claims?
Pam, would you be willing to put that question in? Would you prefer smaller predictable increases or a large increase every few years as one of the survey questions? And
we do have I will take that back and take a look at that. We are yes, we are happy to share the survey data. Okay. Once we get the survey concluded, and I will look at that question.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the robust discussion. Quite frankly, I'm just at the point where it's like maybe no oversight is better than oversight, because off the record discussions, every cargo carrier laughs at the PUC regulatory framework, and that is why nobody else wants to do it. So whether we obliterate the subsidies so nobody gets subsidized, have a crack at it, have fun. No oversight, have a crack at it, have fun. Whoever wants to enter the market. But quite frankly, the cargo carriers that exist, there's a reason why they're not doing inter-island cargo, because they don't want the oversight. And so whether we move to a future of no oversight, obliterating the subsidy, obviously we're still having the robust discussion. So thank you guys so much of where we are at now. Moving on to the next agenda item, as we continue talking about oversight. SB 2400 SD1 related to transportation exempts persons operating wing and ground craft from the application of the Hawaii Water Carrier Act. Defines wing and ground aircraft. Vice Chair for testimony.
Public Utilities Commission with comments. John, Chair. Oh, thank you. Oh,
Careful.
be careful.
Don't trip on
No,
us.
it's fine. Sorry, Vice Chair, members of the committee. My name is Andrew Kabe. I'm an engineer at the commission. I'm here on behalf of Chair Tue Mar and the commission. I'm available for any questions the committee may have. So I'm offering comment on SB 2400.
Thank you.
Thank you. Aero X Ventures in support. IBEW Local Union 1186 in support. OA Technology Development Corporation in support. Not present.
Nope, here.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, David Moliner, HTDC, we stand under testimony as submitted.
Sorry, thank you, David. Regent Craft in support.
Here.
Nope. Hi, go ahead.
Hi, I'll be showing just a quick video to help everyone in the room understand Regent's technology just a bit better. My name is Cedric Hughes.
Wait, hold on, before you go forward, I do want to acknowledge, I had previously told them, because we deferred the previous measure, I had shared that I would allow them to play this video so the committee has context of what is being proposed. Because I think that was one of the concerns the last time, so just for your testimony, could you just please play the video? And then I will try to confine the time, so thank you.
Of course, thank you.
Continue.
I just sent a request to be able to share.
Can you allow him?
Yeah, I am.
Thank you.
Just want to get the audio bit. This is a pretty key step in our test campaign, moving from the hull to the foil. So sea gliders float, foil, and fly. This hydrofoiling mode is the key differentiation between a sea glider and everything that's taken off from the water in the past. As we come up to speed here, you're going to see it coming out of the water on those hydrofoils. They're automatically controlled, monitoring the water and making minute adjustments to stay perfectly locked and stable as we're 5 feet in the air. Watching the sea glider foil, you get this amazing visceral sense of exactly how efficient it is. You can't really tell because we're on a boat now and our engine's pretty loud, but with the sea glider, you cannot hear it at all. We have these extremely efficient electric motors. You can also look at the sea glider and see behind it from those foils, there is no wake. The big challenge with seaplanes or flying boats or even winging ground craft in the past is that they use normal hulls. See how hard our test boats are working. This is how conventional hulls work. They're pushing water out of the way, skipping over the surface. All of that means inefficiency. A sea glider is different. Sea glider uses its hydrofoils to get up to speed. So it's using this very efficient state to get that speed required for takeoff. And so a sea glider is really the definition of how to be an incredibly efficient vehicle. That means speed, that means range, that means payload, and very importantly, that means efficiency enough to use our battery systems. Safety is the name of the game in our test campaign, and we have to make sure each step moving up to flight is incredibly safe and well tested. So what we're doing right now in the hydrofoil campaign, we're starting off at these relatively slow speeds, 20 miles an hour or so, and then we're building our way up to closer to 50 miles an hour when we'll take off later this summer. Watch as it comes down into the water exactly how smooth that is. You can see the waves coming up on the bow and being shed as it enters the water. That's how a sea glider will work as we're landing. That hull comes down, cuts through those waves, sheds that wave energy, and so on board it's extremely comfortable.
Thank you, that was kind of helpful, like, I can kind of see what you guys are trying to accomplish. Okay, if you can provide your quick testimony.
I believe my colleagues have previously submitted testimony, and I'll just be standing on that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. The Maritime Group in support. Grassroots Institute of Hawaii in support. Energy Justice in support.
Yes, good morning, Chair, Vice Chairs, and Vice Chair and members of the committee. I'm Mike Ewald, Executive Director of Energy Justice Network and Co-Chair of the Environmental Caucus of the Democratic Party of Hawaii. We enthusiastically support Senate Bill 2400. It is a refreshing and clean alternative to the many burnable fuels that are being promoted for aviation fuel, none of which are clean or carbon-free. Electrifying transportation is the only way to truly meet the greenhouse gas reduction mandates in the Navahine F settlement and in state law. And the HDOT Draft Energy Security and Waste Reduction Plan would have the state move to expensive and differently harmful biofuels, and waste-based fuels before transitioning a second time in less than 20 years to electrification. So supporting this and going directly to electrification will save a lot of money for taxpayers and consumers without building up a harmful industry in between that will lobby against that second transition. Mahalo.
Thank you. HCDA in support.
Morning, Chair Kila, Vice Chair Miyake, and members of the committee. Kawai, Craig Nakamoto with HCDA. We're supportive of this measure for the potential that wing and ground vessels mean for the state and for our communities that it eventually will serve. For HCDA, we're looking forward to the potential that wing and ground vessels could be ported or terminaled at the Kewalo Basin Harbor. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. HMSA in support. Hawaiian Council in support. Kamehameha Schools in support. David Uchiyama, individual in support on Zoom.
Chair, Vice Chair, strongly support this. It's been an effort that I've helped with since 2001 and going out to the communities and going out to the different organizations like the Hawaii Canoe Racing Association, Okra, KUA, which oversees the fish ponds and fishing grounds surrounding the islands. We've touched all the environmental groups, and we continue to reach out to the communities. So very strong support for this measure. Thank you.
Thank you. We also received 2 testimony in support from individuals, 3 in opposition, and 1 with comments. Anyone online or in person wishing to testify on SB 2400 SD1? Seeing none, Chair.
Thank you. PUC, I have a question.
Yes, Chair.
Okay, so what they're trying to accomplish is, so we don't have set forth what a wing and ground aircraft is, or we do?
Sorry, could you
Is
please
this,
repeat?
so the proposed legislation is setting up a new definition, right?
It would set up a new definition, I believe, in the
For the wing
context
and
of
ground carrier?
our water carrier rules,
Law.
I think. Yeah, in 271G6 or 271G5. Okay, yeah. So what it would do that we don't currently have that definition in statute.
So if say we were inclined to exempt them from the operation of regulation as it relates to passengers, but still subject to cargo regulation, is that possible? Do they need either or they need all? I think what I'm trying to figure out is that if I exempt them or if they're proposed to be exempt from oversight of passenger carrier, and let me just add context, not for safety, but just for regulation, but they're still subject to regulation in cargo, is that possible?
I don't know the actual answer to this one. I would have to double check. I need a few, maybe 24 hours to get back to you.
Okay.
I will note that some of our utilities do run unregulated operations and regulated operations. So subject check, perhaps if you did somehow say, hey, the passenger carrier side is unregulated, potentially it could work that way. I don't want to say yes because again, I haven't heard of this kind of setup where we have potentially, I have to double check, so I'll take the back as an action item.
Please.
Yes.
Thank you. Because I think that's what I'm more inclined to discuss or discover. So thank you. You're good. Anybody else have questions for PUC? I have a question for Regent Aircraft.
Yes.
Is your intent to want to have full autonomy for the movement of passengers and cargo, or you would rather just have the passenger part and subject to cargo regulation?
Yeah, so that's a fair question. In the current submission of the bill, we're looking for a full exemption.
Right. Okay. So if you were to be, what kind of cargo can you actually move though? It's something that size?
Yeah, so good question. So the Viceroy vessel has a payload of around 3,500 pounds. So whether that's being used for essential medical transportation, fresh fruit, food, and produce, that would be up to the operator. We're just the original equipment manufacturer.
Okay, because 3,500 pounds is not going to accomplish much. But for context, you guys are testing a larger aircraft potentially, or you folks are drafting that?
Down the line, yes, but for the immediate focus, it's that
It's a
Viceroy,
12 passengers,
12
is that?
passenger.
Okay.
Yeah.
You guys understand how big some point people are? 3,500 could be real quick.
Yeah.
You can laugh, it's okay. Okay, thank you. I appreciate you just adding more context. I know previously in this committee we deferred the other measure, and I've had to learn. I've learned more, and I think the committee has also learned a little bit more. So thank you for that. Members, any further questions for Regent?
Yeah.
Rep. Cochran.
Sure. Hi, good morning. Thank you for being here. So this is sort of a pilot kind of prototype concept, right? Is it already in full bore being used elsewhere in the nation or world?
Good question. So the status of the vessel, we're still in the prototyping phase. So Regent is conducting its full-scale prototype testing in Rhode Island currently. There are no active deliveries anywhere in the world.
Okay, thank you. A follow-up, Chair?
Yes.
And so Rhode Island, your ocean conditions, your currents, your winds, your waves, does it compare to Hawaii?
To get at your question, no, of course there's differences in the winds, the waves, all of those conditions that would impact operation. That's why in each of the markets that we go into, we conduct feasibility studies, and that's what we've done in Hawaii, where we've done a whole study and analysis of the wind and of the wave state there to look at what are the envelopes of potential operation, what are the limitations that we'll face, and how can we operate safely between islands when we're carrying either cargo or people.
Okay, and Chair, another please.
Yes, please.
And so with that, also, if you looked at the potential harbors, in regards to infrastructure, the cost and adjustments that may be needed to service.
Absolutely. So, apologies.
Yeah, to service your company. So what type of improvements and upgrades and I guess potential costs that could happen?
Absolutely. So we have wrapped up earlier or later last year, we wrapped up a full feasibility study that looked at 12 harbors across Hawaii. And these harbors were analyzed for everything from how their existing infrastructure could be fit for sea gliders to what the passenger experience would be, to those wind and wave models that were developed to look at how would a sea glider operate in and out of those channels. So we did look at those 12 harbors all across the state. And we're now using those the results of that study with potential operators to see where would make sense, how can we operate with them, how can we activate using existing infrastructure to get at that second part of your question about infrastructure costs, where our goal is to leverage to the degree possible existing infrastructure.
And Chair.
Oh, yes.
And so if the last time this is heard, I think at another, you folks have been interacting in discussions with Department of Defense and the military, since we have such a huge, presence here in Hawaii.
Well, if I can add to that too, right?
Okay, sure.
Can you expand on your guys' Coast Guard, I guess, oversight and how that plays into? I think that's where Cochran is asking it, because if you can add the Coast Guard oversight into this discussion.
Thanks.
Okay, can you answer that?
I guess military interaction or discussions along with Coast Guard too?
Yeah, absolutely. So we are a dual use company. So we are both selling on the commercial side as well as the defense side. So we do have those defense contracts. There's currently we're not looking at active deployments out involving Hawaii. We're still in that prototyping phase right now. And a lot of those contracts with on the defense side are still being negotiated, and exactly what comes out of that is still yet to be seen. But in terms of, I just want to make sure I answer your baseline question that yes, we are a dual use company.
Okay, and the oversight by Coast Guard, has there been discussions with their oversight, United States
Yeah,
Coast Guard?
absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and what?
so they apologies, I keep interrupting you. Yes, the U.S. Coast Guard, they were one of the first groups that we started interfacing with because we are a Type A wing and ground effect craft that is regulated in the United States fully by the U.S. Coast Guard. So we're not regulated, by the FAA or another regulatory body. The U.S. Coast Guard is our regulator.
Okay, and lastly, Chair,
Yes,
sorry.
please.
Have you taken into consideration, or how are you going to address our marine sanctuaries here?
Yeah, that's a great question. So marine safety, that's a non-negotiable to us. So we use a combination of infrared computer vision, underwater acoustics, and hull-borne sensors to detect wildlife far in advance. And those are systems that we're developing and testing right now in Rhode Island. More importantly, because sea gliders are maneuverable and don't require deep water channels, we can proactively avoid mapped whale sanctuaries or other marine life sanctuaries entirely. So we're designing this technology specifically to be safer than the heavy propellers and the displacement hulls that are currently operating in Hawaii's waters.
Do you know the history of sea flight that we once had here in Hawaii? Have you heard of that? Did you look into that operation and the closure of that operation here? Sea flight, Hawaii.
Personally, I don't want to overstate any knowledge, so.
Okay. Oh no, I just curious if you had looked at previous hydrofoil type companies and services that were active here in Hawaii, but no longer. Chair, that's all for me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So one more question.
Chair,
So
could I answer that?
yes, Mr. Uchiyama, real quickly, please.
Yeah, so we consulted with both Admiral Fargo early on to learn the do's and don'ts, and I'm very aware of sea flight. And that's why this vehicle flies above the ocean surface, so you don't have the motion of the ocean, which was one of the setbacks of sea flight.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Sure.
So wait, real quick, back to Regent. Would you folks, because you're technically now saying you're federally preempted, so any oversight in Hawaii waters is null and void?
So we are regulated by the U.S. Coast Guard, so that's going to apply to our regulation in Hawaii as
To your
well.
operations in Hawaii?
To the operations in Hawaii, yes.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that. Members, any further questions? Seeing none, let's move on to our next agenda item, SB 2695, SD1 related pedestrian safety. Clarifies the driver's obligation at crosswalks, requires drivers to stop and remain stopped for pedestrians at crosswalks. Strengthens penalties for traffic violations, particularly in school zones. Expands the offense of negligent injury in the second degree to include bodily injury to a vulnerable user by the operation of a vehicle in a negligent manner. Effective January 1, 2027. Vice Chair for testimony.
Department of Transportation in support.
Hello, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Larry Dill for the DOT. We stand on our written testimony as submitted in support.
Thank you. Department of Health in support.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. I'm Leila Irvin, representing the Department of Health. And the Department of Health supports SB 2695 SD1, promoting optimal health and long years of life. And we do this by looking towards partners to create environments and policies and systems change that will help make the healthy choice the default choice. Well, this is difficult to do when we see that our crash rates have increased in 2025, and that nearly one third of all traffic fatalities in 2025 involved a pedestrian, many of whom were lawfully crossing the road. So SB 2695 would reduce that conflict between the pedestrian and the vehicle drivers, because the pedestrian will always lose against a vehicle. And so we support SB 2695, and coupled with then engineering designs that make the pedestrians visible, and also then ask the drivers to also be aware and vigilant and to slow down, will actually help us then work towards Vision Zero. Thank you so much for the opportunity to provide testimony.
Thank you. Oahu MPO in support. Keiki Injury Prevention Coalition in support. Hawaii Bicycling League in support. National Federation of the Blind of Hawaii, Mr. Gasho in support.
Thank you, Chair Kila, Vice Chair Miyake, members. National Federation of the Blind supports this bill, but we're asking you to restore a provision that was in the original HB bill, HB 2186, which this committee did approve. This is the provision about failure to stop and remain stopped for blind and visually impaired in crossing the roadway. The Senate took that provision out, and I think on the basis, the record shows that it was on the basis of the Deputy Attorney General's testimony that it would be inherently difficult to prove. Whether that's true or not, I don't, you know, I'm not in the proof business. The provision would save lives, which I think is what we should be looking at. Whether the person, I mean, maybe in the violation case you worry about proof, but we're talking about the not violation case where the driver responds appropriately and stops and remains stopped. Now, since this provision was taken out, then this bill becomes basically a crosswalks bill. You know, I'm not honestly sure every time I'm inside the lines of a crosswalk, because there's no way I can see them and you can't feel them with a cane. So could be outside of the crosswalk, and this bill does us and myself and 24,000 other people in Hawaii that don't see enough to see the crosswalk all the time, you know, a whole lot of good. So please restore this provision on failure to stop and remain stopped for blind and visually impaired when crossing the roadway. It would put us on a par with Oregon and North Carolina in regard to the same kind of provision in their laws. And mahalo for your attention. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Marie Kuthud, individual in support on Zoom.
Not present.
Not present. We received 4 individuals testimony in support. Anyone online or in person wishing to testify on SB 2695 SD1? Seeing none.
Members, any questions? Seeing none, let's move on to the next agenda item, SB 2026 SD2 relating to traffic safety requires drivers of vehicles approaching stationary motor vehicles stopped at any location on the roadway, shoulder or roadside to slow down and make a lane change if necessary, effective 3/22/2075. Vice Chair for testimony.
Department of Transportation in support.
Larry Dill for DOT. We stand on our written testimony in support as submitted. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Attorney General's Office with comments.
Good morning, Chair Kila, Vice Chair Miyake, and committee members. Michael Moriyama, Deputy Attorney General. The department supports this bill that amends HRS 291C-27. Requires drivers to slow down when approaching a stationary vehicle. The department does have a few comments regarding the bill as currently drafted. First, the department recommends that vehicular warning signs be added to page 2, lines 11 through 16 of the bill to recognize that a raised hood or trunk lid of a stationary vehicle whose emergency lights are inoperable may serve as a warning signal to approaching drivers. The department also recommends that the specific speeds that an approaching driver must slow down to be eliminated. Establishing whether an approaching driver slowed to the specific speed required may prove difficult and as a result make the law unenforceable. HRS 291C-107 prohibits speeds greater than what is reasonable and prudent under existing hazards and conditions and can be used along with 291C-27 to ensure the safety of police officers and stranded motorists. Lastly, HRS 291C27 on page 3, lines 8 through 9 of the bill requires approaching drivers to stop, if necessary, only when making a lane change. As a result, the current law does not require an approaching driver to stop anytime it's necessary. For example, the law does not currently require an approaching driver to stop if an accident victim, such as a jogger or a bicycle rider, is lying in the roadway. The department recommends that the bill be amended to require that approaching drivers stop anytime it's necessary. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today. I'm available for questions.
Thank you.
Thank you. We also, Oahu MPO in support, Keiki Injury Prevention Coalition in support, AAA Hawaii in support, and one individual in support. Anyone online or in person wishing to testify on SB 2026 SC2? Seeing none, Chair.
Thank you. Members, any questions? Seeing none, I can move on to the next agenda item before us, SB 2463 SD1 relating to the use of intoxicants while operating a vehicle. Lowers the blood alcohol content threshold for driving while under the influence of an intoxicant. Vice Chair for testimony.
Department of Transportation in support.
Larry Dill for DOT. We stand in support on our testimony as submitted. Thank you.
Thank you. Office of the Governor in support. Not present. Office of the Public Defender in opposition.
Hello, Deputy Public Defender Sarah Haley on behalf of the Office of the Public Defender. My office opposes this bill. We oppose it because it focuses precious resources and our already overburdened criminal justice system on the wrong group of people. To reduce the devastating effects of drunk driving, Hawaii should focus on prevention of higher blood alcohol content level offenses and repeat offenders. And this bill does the opposite. It focuses those resources on criminalizing a new group of people, those driving with as low as a 0.02 alcohol level. A responsible driver who has consumed as low as 1 or 2 drinks is not the category of driver that needs those penalties. Also, we already have law that criminalizes this type of driver if they do drive impaired, regardless of the blood alcohol content. For these reasons and others in our written testimony, my office opposes this bill and I am available for questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Oahu MPO in support. Department of Health in support. Hawaii County Council Member Jen Kajiwara in support. County of Hawaii Office of the Prosecuting Attorney in support. On Zoom.
Aloha Chair Kila, Vice Chair Miyake, committee members, Hawaii County Prosecutor Keldon Walgen. We stand in strong support of this bill. This bill isn't about criminalizing behavior and locking people up. What this bill is about, it's saving lives. Alcohol-related traffic fatalities continue to be a significant concern across our state and nation. International studies show an average 11% reduction in fatal alcohol-related crashes after lowering BAC limits. Lowering the BAC to 0.05 is common across the globe. In fact, it's the international norm. Almost 100 countries have already made the move, including France, Australia, Japan, Germany, and others. The US is just a little late to the table, but it's not for a lack of efforts. Back in 2013, the National Traffic Safety Board published a report which identified the most effective, scientifically based actions that could save lives from alcohol-impaired driving. And they recommended that all states, the District of Columbia, and Puerto Rico lower their BAC to 0.05. Now let's address some misconceptions. Contrary to what some may argue, the opposition has argued, lowering the BAC will not result in significant increase in arrests, nor is it going to place additional burdens on police resources. Also, those in opposition may argue that most fatal alcohol-related traffic crashes involve highly intoxicated drivers. And that's true, the types of highly intoxicated drivers that can be addressed in SB 2392. But it doesn't mean that the drivers with lower BAC levels cause traffic fatalities. In fact, in 2023, there were 2,117 people in the US that were killed in crashes where a driver had a BAC between 0.01 and 0.07. That's over 17%. That's a significant number. Unlike SB 2392, which focuses on highly intoxicated drivers, this bill will address drinkers at all BAC levels by serving as a general deterrent to drinking excessively and driving. It will encourage people to think twice before they get behind the wheel, to be responsible, plan ahead of time, get a designated driver, use rideshare, or get a taxi. This bill will educate and spread public awareness. Simply put, .05 will save lives. Mahalo for the opportunity to testify today. We submitted our written input, and I'm available to answer any questions.
Thank you. Maui County Department of the Prosecuting Attorney in support. Honolulu Police Department in support on Zoom.
Not present.
Not present. Hawaii Bicycling.
Wait.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Somebody unmuted.
Hi,
What's up?
sorry, I'm trying to get my camera up. It's not working, but this is, hi.
Oh,
can
there
guys
you are.
see me?
Thank you.
Hi, good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, committee members. I'm Acting Captain Torres on behalf of the Honolulu Police Department, and we stand by our written testimony and support.
Thank you. Hawaii Bicycling League in support. Hawaii Substance Abuse Coalition in support. Hinamauka in support. Lanikai Brewing Company in opposition on Zoom.
Not present.
Not present. Shopo with comments. Advocates for Highway and Auto Safety Coalition of Safety Organizations in support. Oh, yeah, not present. Hawaii Public Health Institute in support on Zoom.
Morning, Chair Kila, Vice Chair Miyake. My name is Rick Collins. I'm with Hawaii Public Health Institute, and we stand on our written testimony and strong support. I just want to make a few quick comments on some of the testimony you've heard and talk about some of the opposition points. First of all, I just want to point out to you some of the organizations, but it's not the whole list, but the organizations that are supporting .05 BAC as a general deterrent to prevent alcohol impaired driving. American Medical Association, American Public Health Association, Mothers Against Drunk Driving, National Academies of Science, Engineering, Medicine, National Transportation Safety Board, World Health Organization, Vision Zero Network, et cetera, et cetera. So my point here is to say that these organizations do not lightly recommend policies such as this, that they weigh the research and the evidence to ensure that policy recommendations they put forward are going to be effective. These are also the expert organizations around traffic safety as it relates to DUIs and other traffic related issues. And so I just want to sort of put that out in the front and say, while there may be opposition from the alcohol industry saying this is ineffective, they're sort of going against a multitude of these international and national organizations that are really saying, hey, we need to support this, and the evidence is really clear that this will deter DUIs and deaths and the other related traffic fatality or traffic issues. So that's sort of first and foremost. The second thing I want to just say is that there's a misconception out there that this only addresses DUIs within .05 to .08, and that is a false. That's a false claim. This basically has a broad general deterrent because people that get behind the wheel of a car that have been drinking, they don't know their blood alcohol content level, and so what we do know, what the science does show, is that when we lower it, it acts as a general deterrent across all BAC levels, and it has an effect across all those BAC levels. So for this, it's one of the most impacting policies that we can put in place because it affects the most.
If I can ask you to
people.
summarize, please. Sorry.
Yeah. No problem, Rep. Kila. That's all I want to say. I'm here for questions if you have them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Big Island Brew House in opposition. Maui Wine in opposition. Mothers Against Drunk Driving Hawaii in support.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. My name is McKenna Young, and I serve as Program Director for Mothers Against Drunk Driving. We are in strong support of lowering the legal blood alcohol concentration to .05. Every day, our work puts us in contact with individuals and families whose lives have been permanently altered by impaired driving. We speak with parents who will never see their child come home again, spouses navigating life after an unimaginable loss, and loved ones trying to make sense of something that never should have happened. While this is the work that we do, it is not the work that we want to keep doing. We do not want to receive these calls. We do not want to sit with another grieving mother or look in the eyes of a family trying to understand why their loved one is gone or why themselves are severely injured. But the reality is, without meaningful prevention, those calls will keep coming. Every impaired driving crash is preventable. Every single one. Lowering the BAC to 0.05 is not about punishment. It's about creating a shift in behavior. It's about making someone pause and ask themselves, am I okay to drive? That moment of hesitation can save a life. Right now, too many people believe they are fine to drive when they're not, and families are paying the price for that belief. This bill sends a clear message. If you are drinking, do not drive. It strengthens a culture of responsibility and reinforces that even small amounts of alcohol can impair judgment, reaction time, and decision making. We cannot undo the tragedies that have already happened, but you have the power right now to prevent the next one, the next phone call, the next knock on a family's door, the next life taken too soon. So please, stand with the victims, choose prevention, and support this measure. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Maui Chamber of Commerce in opposition.
We stand on our written testimony in opposition.
Thank you. National Transportation Safety Board in support.
Good morning, Chair and members of the committee.
Good morning. Please go ahead.
Trying to get my camera to work. There we go. My name is Tom Chapman. I have the honor of serving as the 46th member of the National Transportation Safety Board. I'm speaking to you from our offices in Washington, D.C. Thank you for the opportunity to testify in support of Senate Bill 2463. Since 2013, the NTSB has recommended that states establish a per se BAC standard of 0.05 or lower. In 2018, Utah became the first state to do so and subsequently saw reductions in both its fatal crash and fatality rates relative to the rest of the United States. Passage of 0.05 legislation in Hawaii would make it the second state to embrace a change that will save lives and cut the number of senseless and completely avoidable crashes. In 2023, there were a staggering 12,429 alcohol-impaired driving fatalities in the United States. That represents 30% of all traffic fatalities in 2023. The state of Hawaii alone lost 39 lives to alcohol-impaired driving in 2023, which was 42% of the state's total traffic fatalities, 11 percentage points higher than the national average. That makes Hawaii first in the nation for the proportion of impaired driving fatalities. Various countermeasures to combat alcohol-impaired driving have been tried over the years, and some have made a significant difference.
Thomas, I'm so sorry. Can you summarize, please?
Yes, sir. Well, we appreciate the opportunity to testify today. We have long supported this proposal. We commend all of you for considering it, and we hope you will support it. Thank you.
Thank you, and I'm so sorry I forgot to announce, because I would like to try to move some of these measures out today. For the remaining testimonies, can you please, I'm gonna ask that you folks just have I'm going to cut to a minute of testimony, and I would just want to acknowledge that is why we try to make all the testimony available to this committee much more beforehand, so they have sufficient time to review these things. And so if you're gonna stand on it or add any more context, that's what I would appreciate. So moving forward, that is the plan for the remaining agenda items. Vice Chair, continue testimony, please.
Thank you, Chair. Wine Institute in opposition. On Zoom. Not present. Brittany Cass, individual in support.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, and committee members. Life can change in a blink of an eye. One moment, I was a busy wife, mother, and military spouse. The next, a drunk driver collided with me at a combined 120 miles an hour, and everything I knew was ripped from me. My name is Brittany Cass, and I am a survivor of a horrific drunk driving crash. I was left unconscious, barely breathing, trapped in a twisted metal of my car as first responders fought to keep me alive. I broke both my femurs, my hip, my back, shattered my knee, suffered internal bleeding, a traumatic brain injury, and spent 5 days in a coma while my husband had to go home and tell our 3 young children that their mom wasn't coming home. And here's a picture of that. I don't know how to fully describe the fear, the gut-wrenching terror of waking up to pain so intense that it's unbearable, of not knowing if I would ever speak, walk, or hold my children again. I don't know if I ever will get my life back. Every day was a battle against my own body, against muscles that refused to work, bones that screamed with every move, and mind clouded by trauma. And the pain isn't just physical. It's the nights of crying alone, memories of my children's faces as they tried to understand why I wasn't there, and the fear of the life that I loved so much was gone. My identity, my future, my story nearly ended because someone said they were fine enough to drive. I'll wrap it up. You've heard my story before, and I will continue to stand in support of SB 2463. I just want to close by saying, at some point we have to ask ourselves, how many more of these stories do you have to hear before we act, before we create change? We know this isn't the first cycle or the second or the third, and so to continue to prevent families from having to go through what my family has had. And I'm grateful for the voice that I have to be here to physically stand and to be in front of you and to share my testimony. Thank you for having me.
No, I thank you, Brittany. I know you've had a robust interim, and I just thank you for continuing to show up before this committee and the work that you and the advocates do. If I don't have time to thank you, I would like to publicly thank you. Thank you.
We also received 13 individual testimonies in support and 3 in opposition. Anyone online or in person wishing to testify on SB 2463 SD1? Seeing the chair.
Thank you. Members, any questions? Seeing none, I can move on to the next agenda item, SB 2253 relating to highway safety, amends the offense of negligent injury in the first degree to include injuries negligently affected by intoxicated drivers, effective 7/1/26. Vice Chair for testimony.
Department of Transportation in support.
Larry Dill for the DOT. Chair, we stand in support on our testimony as submitted. Thank you.
Thank you. Oahu MPO in support. Kauai Police Department in support. County of Hawaii Office of the Prosecuting Attorney in support.
We stand on our written testimony. Mahalo for the opportunity to testify. We're available for any questions. Mahalo.
Thank you.
Thank you. Maui County Department of the Prosecuting Attorney in support, and 1 individual with comments. Anyone online or in person wishing to testify on SB 2253 SC2? Seeing no, Chair.
Thank you. Members, any questions? Seeing none, let's move on to the next agenda item, SB 2392. I'm sorry, and I also want to apologize. I'm trying to be present in the committee while also responding to community efforts of dealing with the flooding after the post Honolulu. So I please know I'm trying to be my best present in these 2 places at once. And thank you to all our first responders. SB 2392 relating to traffic safety specifies that operating a vehicle under the influence of an intoxicant while highly intoxicated drivers is a misdemeanor for the first offense or any offense not pursued within a 10-year period. Specifies and imposes additional sentencing and probation requirements for a person convicted of a misdemeanor operating on a vehicle under the influence of an intoxicant offense, upgrades the offense of operating a vehicle under the influence of an intoxicant while a highly intoxicated driver to a Class C felony under certain conditions, specifies and imposes additional sentencing and probation requirements for Class C felony offense of operating a vehicle under the influence of an intoxicant while a highly intoxicated driver, prohibits a deferred acceptance of guilty pleas for persons convicted of operating a vehicle under influence of an intoxicant. Vice Chair for testimony.
Department of Transportation in support.
Larry Dill for the DOT. DOT stands on our written testimony in support as submitted. Thank you very much.
Thank you. State of Hawaii Judiciary with comments.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. My name is Jennifer Owong. I'm the staff attorney for the criminal divisions of the First Circuit, as well as for Judiciary Administration. We will stand on our written testimony providing comments, just advising the committee of potential impacts the bill may have on judiciary operations. These include, because of the elevation of the offense from a petty misdemeanor to a misdemeanor and C felony, defendants charged with misdemeanors and C felonies do have a right to jury trial in circuit court. Given the anticipated statewide increase in jury trials and demand for probation services under this bill, and in light of the constitutional right of all defendants to a speedy trial, the judiciary may require additional resources for both probation and our courts, including an additional judge. But I'm available for any questions.
Thank you. Office of the Governor in support.
Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee, Angie Chapman on behalf of Will Kane, Senior Advisor, the Office of the Governor stands on its written testimony and support.
Thank you. Office of the Public Defender in opposition.
Thank you. Deputy Public Defender Sarah Haley appearing for the Office of the Public Defender. We do oppose this bill. Based off limited time, I'm going to just highlight 1 or 2 points from our written testimony. The main one I wanted to highlight is proportionality. This bill would increase the probation period so that it is out of step with all other misdemeanors. The probation period would be 4 times the standard probation period for other misdemeanors, and it would be 2 times the only other misdemeanor that has an extensive probation period or extended probation period, which would be domestic violence offenses. So even domestic violence offenses would have half the probation period of what this bill is proposing. I'd also just note that we do support penalties that are based off evidence-based strategies, prevention, early intervention, substance use treatment, ignition interlock requirements, and those are all already in place. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. The Judiciary, State of Hawaii, Deputy Chief Court Administrator Michelle Acosta with comments. Oahu MPO in support. Hawaii Police Department in support. Kauai Police Department in support. County of Hawaii Office of the Prosecuting Attorney in support.
Hawaii County Prosecutor Kelvin Waldron, we stand in strong support of this bill. I'd like to acknowledge the comments by the judiciary and support their request for additional resources, and believe also that their request for a January 1st, 2027 effective date is reasonable. Highly intoxicated drivers pose a significant threat on our roadways. In 2023, 67% or 8,272 of 12,429 alcohol impaired driving fatalities involved a driver with a BAC of 0.15 or higher. This bill is multifaceted, and it promotes traffic and public safety by promoting accountability, prevention, and treatment opportunities. It promotes accountability by ensuring that those who endanger others will be held accountable, face more appropriate penalties for their dangerous behavior. It promotes prevention through its enhanced penalties and consequences that aim at deterring those same highly intoxicated people from getting behind the wheel in the first place if they are impaired. And lastly, it promotes treatment by providing the court the option of placing a highly intoxicated driver on probation. Offenders will now be able to afford the necessary time and opportunity to address their addiction. At present, only habitual DUI offenders are able to be placed on probation. High intox DUIs are not probation eligible. That's concerning because high intox DUI offenders pose a significant threat. This bill protects Hawaii's families, Keiki, and everyone who shares our roadways. There's overwhelming support for this legislation. Looking at the testimony that's been previously submitted, there's testimony and support from law enforcement, prosecutors, Department of Transportation, other government agencies, nonprofits, and even members of the alcohol industry. I encourage this committee to pass this legislation. Mahalo for the opportunity to testify today. We submitted our written input.
Thank you. Maui County Department of the Prosecuting Attorney in support. City and County of Honolulu Department of Customer Services in support. Keiki Injury Prevention Coalition in support. Shopo in support. Maui Chamber of Commerce in support.
We stand on our strong written testimony and support.
Thank you. We also received 2 testimonies from individuals in support. Anyone online or in person wishing to testify on SB 2392 SD2? Seeing none, Chair.
Thank you. Members, any questions? Seeing none, I can move on to the next agenda item before us, SB 2991 SD1. Clarifies that persons whose driver's license have been revoked for certain alcohol-related offenses are required to undergo re-examination before the examiner of drivers may relicense the person. Requires a notice and order of administrative revocation to include certain information. Vice Chair for the testimony.
Department of Transportation in support.
Yeah, Larry Dill for the DOT. Chair, we stand on our written testimony in support as submitted. Thank you.
Thank you. Attorney General's Office with comments.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, committee members. Michael Moriyama, Deputy Attorney General. This bill requires that a notice of administrative revocation of a driver's license issued by a law enforcement officer at the time of arrest state the period of revocation, including the revocation start and end date. The notice of revocation serves as a temporary driver's permit unless the driver was unlicensed at the time. The driver's license is not revoked until an administrative review of the notice is completed. An administrative review of the notice or decision may or may not revoke a driver's license. An administrative review decision that revokes a driver's license is then subject to a hearing at the election of the driver. Upon hearing of the administrative review decision, the administrative review decision to revoke may or may not be sustained. Therefore, when the officer issues a notice of administrative revocation, it is not possible to identify the start and end date of the revocation period. HRS 291-34 currently requires that any notice of administrative revocation, the examiner of drivers who subsequently receives an application for an applicant who has their license revoked has to check the applicant's driver's license. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oahu MPO on support. City and County of Honolulu Department of Customer Services with comments. And 3 individuals testimonies in support. Anyone online or in person wishing to testify on SB 2991 SD1? Seeing none, Chair.
Thank you. Members, any questions? Seeing that our next agenda item, SB 2812 SD1 related to transportation safety requires testings of driver's license applicants on the dangers that larger motor vehicles present to pedestrians and bicyclists, requires persons who commit the offense of excessive speeding or habitually driving while intoxicated to pass the driver's license examination for each offense pursuant to an order of the court. Vice Chair for testimony.
Department of Transportation in support.
Larry Dill for the DOT. DOT stands on its written testimony in support as submitted. Thank you.
Thank you. Oahu MPO in support. Attorney General's Office with comments.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, committee members, Michael Moriyama, Deputy Attorney General. SB 2812 SD1 requires drivers who have been convicted of excessive speeding or habitually operating a vehicle while intoxicated to retake the driver's examination. The bill, as currently drafted and worded, appears to require the courts to order drivers whose licenses have been revoked to pass a driver's license examination, whether the driver wants to be reapply for a license or not. This means that drivers whose licenses have been permanently revoked or who no longer want to be licensed will still have to take the driver's license exam. The department recommends that the bill on page 9, lines 16 through 19, and on page 14, lines 9 through 13, be clarified to require that any driver who has had their driver's license revoked must pass a driver's license examination if they reapply for a driver's license at any time after the revocation. And again, it should be noted that HRS 286-102 requires the examiner of drivers to investigate the applicant's driver's record before he issues the license. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. City and County of Honolulu Department of Customer Services with comments. Office of the Public Defender in opposition.
Thank you. Deputy Public Defender Sarah Haley, on behalf of the Office of the Public Defender, we do oppose this bill. I'd like to focus on the excessive speeding. The current penalties for excessive speeding are extensive and sufficient already. The additional penalty of retaking the driver's license exam does not meaningfully fix the problem. Excessive speeding generally reflects a decision-making problem rather than a lack of knowledge concerning how to drive. Also, and this particularly affects our clients, this penalty will disproportionately impact the indigent. It's hard for them to take off work, get childcare, and get the resources needed to retake the driver's exam. So this will be an additional burden for them. Thank you.
Thank you. We also received testimony from 3 individuals in support. Anyone in person or online wishing to testify on SB 2812 SD1? Chair.
Thank you. Members, any questions? Seeing none, I'd like to move on to our next agenda item, SB 2429 SD1 relating to traffic safety, establishes a framework for the use of intelligent speed assisted technology for habitual speeders, establishes liability for a manufacturer, distributor, or retailer regarding the design, manufacture, installation, or repair of an aftermarket intelligent speed assistance system, requires a report to the legislature. Vice Chair for testimony.
Department of Transportation in support.
Larry Dill for the DOT. We stand on our written testimony in support as submitted. Thank you.
Thank you. Attorney General's Office with comments.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee, Deputy Attorney General Mark Tom for the department. Department just provides comments with some suggested amendments to Senate Bill 2429's SD1. The department does understand the intent of this measure. However, as written, the department would just point out some difficulties in consistency and subjectivity based on the language and how it relates to our current court system. Additionally, specifically for speeding infraction purposes. We did point out that there is mechanisms to make it such as like looking at habitual property crime or habitual violent crimes in a way to structure it a little better. Would also point out to the committee there appears to be a lack of court supervision for certain types of offenses for infractions. So there is no real strong enforcement mechanism in this bill. Possibly allowing for excessive speeding to be probation eligible will allow the courts to impose this type of device when necessary, but it would only relate to certain offenses in 291C. We'll stand on the rest of our written testimony here for any questions.
Thank you.
Thank you. State of Hawaii Judiciary with comments. Oahu MPO in support. Kauai Police Department in support. Mothers Against Drunk Driving in support. Hawaii Bicycling League in support. Smart Start LLC in support. Families for Safe Streets in support. Alliance for Automobile Innovation with comments on Zoom.
Chair, we stand on a written testimony with comments and offer amendments in our testimony.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chad Taniguchi in support on Zoom.
Thank you.
Not present. We also received 6 individual testimonies in support, 1 in opposition. Anyone online or in person wishing to testify on SB 2429 SD1? Seeing none, Chair.
Thank you. Members, any questions? Seeing none, let's move on to our next agenda item, SB 2896 SD1 relating to commercial driver's license. Lowers the age of who may drive commercially within the state from 19 to 18. Repeals the requirement that a person only operates a Category 3 vehicle to qualify to drive commercially in the state. Prohibits a person under 21 years of age from operating a commercial motor vehicle outside of a state-approved commercial driver training program or registered apprenticeship program, as determined by the Department of Labor and Industrial Relations. Requires the Department of Transportation to consult with DLIR to amend rules and allow persons under 21 age to operate a commercial motor vehicle under certain conditions. Vice Chair for testimony.
Department of Transportation in support.
Larry Dill for the DOT. We stand on our written testimony in support as submitted. Thank you.
Thank you. DLIR in support.
Vice Chair Miyake, members, Jay Ishbashi on behalf of Director Jay Butai. Department stands on our written testimony supporting it.
Thank you. City and County of Honolulu Department of Customer Services in support. Hawaii Transportation Association in support.
Aloha and good morning. I'm Tina Yamaki with the Hawaii Transportation. We are in support of this bill and we stand on our testimony, but I do want to point out 2 things. One of them is the language in the current bill states that a person under 21 operating a vehicle has to be enrolled in commercial driver's education. That means like if you're 18, you have to be in driver's education for a number of years before you turn 21, before you get your CDL license is how it's read right now. And we do point out that we would like to see language in there that 21 and under should have to have training by the company that they are employed with, so they get used to that truck that they're driving. A lot of times now, these places that do CDL license is all on simulators. And I've also found out that the federal DOT is the one who goes and looks at these places and makes sure that they're up to speed and doing everything correctly. And I believe that Hawaii just got a few of them taken off the list where they can do their licensing. So thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Tina.
you. We also received 2 individual testimonies in support. Anyone online or in person wishing to testify on SB 2896 SD1? Signature.
Thank you. Members, any questions? Seeing none, moving on to our next agenda item, SB 2999 SD1 HD1 relating to clean fuel standard requires Department of Transportation to adopt rules by January 1st, 2028 governing a clean fuel standard for alternative fuels in the state effective 7/1/3000. Vice Chair for testimony.
Climate Change Mitigation and Adaptation Commission in support. Not present. Office of the Governor in support.
Office of the Governor stands on its written testimony in support.
Clean Energy in support. Department of Transportation in support. Island Energy Services with comment. Nesty in support. Pump Cleaners Fuels Hawaii in support.
Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to testify today. We did submit written testimony, but I just want to note a couple of comments here. First, I want to note the economics of a clean fuel standard. This is proven legislation that is in place all along the West Coast, and rulemaking has just recently finished in New Mexico. These programs have successfully driven billions of dollars in private investment in clean fuels and electrification infrastructure. I also want to note, as we're seeing in real time, that fuel prices are driven far more by the global oil markets than by clean fuel standards or any climate policy, and that in Washington state, required price impact analysis has shown that the program has only increased gasoline and diesel prices by less than 1 cent per gallon, which is significantly less than research previously indicated it may. Lastly, I wanted to note that the clean fuel standard requires the use of the GREET model, which ensures that fuels are actually reducing their life cycle carbon intensity. So strongly support this measure, and thank you for your consideration.
Thank you.
Thank you. Rivian in support.
Good morning. My name is Abigail Ramsden. I lead Western State Public Policy for Rivian Automotive. As a manufacturer of electric vehicles and of electric vehicle charging infrastructure, Rivian is pleased to support this bill. A clean fuel standard is a proven policy that can catalyze growth in the electric vehicle sector. These policies create new markets that use private capital for accelerated investment in clean fuels like electricity, without requiring substantial new budget commitments or annual appropriation. For the EV industry, the benefits of a clean fuel standard are many. While we believe the bill can be even stronger with the benefit of some target amendments, and we also submitted a joint letter with Tesla and with some EV charging infrastructure agencies which specify these amendments, but we believe that this bill is really wonderful for the state, and we express our support for the bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Energy Justice Network in opposition.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. I'm Mike Ewall, Executive Director of Energy Justice Network, speaking up for our members and member groups in Hawaii. As it turns out, many of the burnable fuels are actually worse for the climate than the fossil fuels that they would replace. This bill uses the GREET model, which makes biofuels look better for the climate than fossil fuels. But leading climate scientists have exposed this model as flawed due to its incorrect evaluation of indirect land use change. Even where they may be less bad, it is still a bad idea because these so-called clean fuels are worse in terms of land and water use, toxicity, competition with food production, risk from genetic modification, and more. These not actually clean fuels are extra expensive because state law requires zero emissions from transportation by 2045. And burnable fuels are not zero emissions, so the plan is to do 2 major transitions in under 20 years, one from fossil fuels to biofuels and waste-based fuels, then another to electrofuels that have the potential to be truly free of greenhouse gases. I'd like to highlight 2 recommendations if you were to move this bill forward. First, remove the eligibility of fuels produced from trash and construction demolition wastes unless it can be demonstrated that these feedstocks have no greater concentration of halogens or toxic metals like arsenic than the conventional fossil fuels or biofuels that they will replace. This bill references construction and demolition.
Mr. Ewell, I need you to summarize, please.
Okay, I'm just saying that it's much more toxic and there's not enough land and water for it. And so please recommend that only in-state production and not imports are allowed if you're going to move this bill forward.
Thank you. Simone Petrie Enterprises in support. PAR Hawaii with comments.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Myung-Mo here on behalf of PAR Hawaii. PAR Hawaii offers comments with recommended amendments, two fundamental amendments that we are recommending. The first, as Hawaii's only refinery, we want to make sure that cost containment for potential escalation in gasoline and diesel prices are contained in a way where we can see forthright every year as a result of this new program. The second amendment that we are also for the committee's consideration is that the program does not jeopardize local production versus imported fuels. Want to make sure that our employees that are in the refinery and at retail stations jobs going forward. I'll be available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Tesla in support. National Electrical Manufacturers Association in support. Ted Metrose, individual in opposition, in person.
Hello, Chair, Vice Chair, members of Transportation. I'm Ted Metrose. Used to run PAR Hawaii's renewable fuels program for 7 years. I would like to say that this program is good, but it doesn't go far enough. It does not capture one of the island's biggest problems, which is inter-island air. It gives an exemption, a pass for that. It shouldn't. It's within the state's authority to regulate that, and this bill should cover it. The airlines and their suppliers have suggested that this bill, that the state doesn't have the authority. They have the authority. They've been misleading you. They've also represented that the whole problem is just interstate travel being 90% of the fuel. That's incorrect as well. DOT has said 35% of the fuel is going towards inter-island air. Lastly, this is a money bill. If we can put this onto inter-island air, we don't have to give tax subsidies. But the tax subsidies are very important because roughly 200 million gallons could be used on inter-island air alone. If it's $1.50, that's $300 million per year that the airlines and PAR Hawaii will be asking for in terms of tax credits, and that expenditure can be avoided by simply applying this standard to inter-island air, just like it is towards marine fuels. Thank you.
Thank you. We also received testimony from 3 individuals in support and 1 in opposition. Anyone online or in person wishing to testify on SB 2999 at HD1? Seeing that. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Laura Kakua with DOT. Apologies for not standing up quick enough earlier. You did receive our testimony in support, and I just wanted to highlight the 4 mainly technical amendments that we're requesting. And just note that we think at this time it's prudent to only have a clean fuel standard applied to ground transportation fuel. I'm available for questions.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to testify? Seeing that, Chair.
Thank you. Members, any questions? Okay, last agenda item, SB 3029 SD1 relating to community development. Requires each county in collaboration with the Hawaii Community Development Authority to establish a summer streets pilot program that closes vehicular traffic and repurpose roads for pedestrians and cyclist use, outdoor events and other community-driven activities. Requires each county to submit an initial proposal to the Hawaii Community Development Authority. Requires a report to the legislature and appropriates funds.
Department of Health in support.
Oh, sorry, Vice Chair for testimony.
Department of Health in support.
Good morning, Chair Keela, my aloha to your community and everyone else dealing with their districts and what happened after the storm. The Department of Health provides testimony in support of SB 3029. Community connections are really important, and I have to say that when I walk my dogs, people know my dogs' names, but not my name. And so in terms of what Summer Streets, or sometimes it's called Play Streets, is about creating not just a physical activity opportunity, but the opportunity for community members to get to know each other. And those incidental conversations we have, even about our dogs, it builds bonds, and it's important. I just want to be really brief. On the third page of our testimony, what we added is a footer with a link that shows you what we funded in Kauai as a pilot, Play Streets Kauai in 2022 during the pandemic, when it was safer to be outside and to maintain social connections. And so you'll see a link there. And the last page, we have a photo of the kids outside doing Play Streets. The County of Kauai Planning Department continues to support it, and they have all the equipment so they can continue. So thank you for the opportunity to provide testimony.
Thank you. Oahu MPO in support. Hawaii County Council Member Jen Kajiwara in support. City and County of Honolulu Department of Transportation Services in support. Hawaii Bicycling League in support. HCDA with comments.
Morning, Chair Kila, Vice Chair Miyake, and members of the committee, Craig Nakamoto, Executive Director of Hawaii Community Development Authority. We have submitted our written comments, but I'd just like to add one more comment. If this measure is going to proceed, in addition to requiring funding, we ask that some of the deadlines in the bill be kind of made a little bit more flexible to allow us enough time to implement. For example, on page 4, line 8, instead of saying December 31st, 2026, when the proposals are due, we suggest maybe June 30th, 2027, because sometimes we don't get funds allotted to us or released till much later, like end of December. In addition, on page 4, line 12, line 13, maybe make the reporting to the legislature 2028 instead accordingly. Thank you.
Thank you, Craig.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hawaii Appleseed Center for Law and Economic Justice in support. Better Block Hawaii in support. Individual Jonathan Lott in support. In person.
I stand in on my written testimony in support.
Thank you, Mr. Lott. We also received testimonies from 4 individuals in support. Anyone online or in person wishing to testify on SB 3029 SD1?
Members, any questions? Okay, seeing none, let's take a brief recess. thank you all so much. I wanna thank everybody for the robust discussion this morning and thank you everybody for continuing to show up before this committee. As I said, as we started legislative session, I think just the bills that we continue to reflect on is reflective of the community that has made it a priority this interim and for us this session to address transportation in every mode and mechanism possible. And so I just wanna thank everybody for your patience this morning. So let's start with the first one, SB 2694 SD2 relating to water carriers. At this time, I wanna defer decision making on this bill to this Friday, 10:30 AM here in conference room 430 for the purpose of decision making. So we will defer that for decision making to this Friday. I wanna thank the housing committee for foregoing their slot for hearings to allow us to continue the discussion. My staff will file the appropriate notice after today's hearing. SB 2400 SD1 related to transportation. For this measure,
Chair.
sorry,
Just a comment, Friday's a recess day, yeah?
yes, but we can still have hearings.
Session recess.
Session recess, still can have hearings.
Okay, same old.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, SB 2400 SD1 related to transportation. We deferred the House measure previously in this committee. I've had more robust discussion and I hope they have reached out to you folks as well. I know I asked the PUC to look into it, but for this measure, colleagues, I wanna adopt the HD one. So for this one, I wanna clarify that Wingcraft, the proposed legislation on Wingcraft, they shall be exempt from passenger regulation as put forth over the PUC, but I still believe for oversight of the cargo, so we will be inserting language like that. We will also do tech amendments for clarity, consistency and style and have HMSO defect the effective date. Members, questions, comments or concerns? Rep Pure.
So I don't know if you're gonna have quorum on Friday.
I think I have quorum. Okay. Members, questions, comments or concerns?
Chair,
Rep Cochran.
I think just my questioning and hearing comments, I think there's potential here, I just think it's premature at this time, so that's just my not supporting it at this time.
Okay.
But will one day, I'm sure.
No, thank you, Rep Cochran. Members, any further questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, Vice Chair for the vote, please.
Voting on SB 2400 SD1, the recommendation is to pass with amendments. Chair and Vice Chair vote aye. Rep. Evsland.
Aye.
Rep. Grandinetti.
Aye.
Rep. Kitagawa.
Aye.
Rep. LaChica.
Aye.
Rep. Cochran.
No.
Rep. Muraoka.
No.
Rep. Perry.
No.
The recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, members. Our next agenda item before us, SB 2695 SD1 related to pedestrian safety. Members, I'd like to adopt the HD1 for this measure. I wanna do tech amendments for clarity, consistency and style, HMSO defect the effective date. And for this one, and I'm going to amend it to include the savings clause rather than the severability. I wanna acknowledge that the Federation for Blind folks asked for that language to be reinserted, but I reviewed the AG's comments and concerns, so for now, I'm gonna be foregoing it. Doesn't mean maybe at a later date it can be inserted, but for this purpose, that's a measure I'd like to move forward as a HD1. Members, questions, comments, or concerns?
Sure. With that being stated, I would prefer to have that amendment added back in as stated by Mr. Gashel, so at this time I'll have with reservations.
Thank you, and to further clarify, the AG submitted testimony in the Senate on the first measure, that's why it was removed. So it wasn't in this one, so but it is in the first committee for committee reference, so thank you, Rep. Cochran. Right, members, any further questions? Vice Chair for the vote, please.
Voting on SB 2695 SD1, the recommendation is to pass with amendments noting every member present. Any reservations? Rep. Cochran's reservations. Any no votes? Seeing none, the recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, members. SB 2463 relating to the use of intoxicants while operating a vehicle. I wanna continue to thank the advocates for bringing forth this measure in front of the legislature and committee every year. I wanna acknowledge that the governor has made a push on this as well to try to show, I think, that this is a bipartisan measure that can be adopted in our state. I have in previous committees been very supportive of this measure. There was a House vehicle that we never heard because I knew this one was gonna cross over. I know we continue to have robust discussion and I've been reading the op-eds and Star Advertiser as they have written this. I acknowledge that this is not the silver bullet, but I still think in the guise of traffic safety and trying to do different things, I'd like to move this measure forward as HD1 and just by defecting the effective date for SB 2463. Members, questions, comments, or concerns?
2026, sorry.
2026.
2026.
Oops, sorry, I got excited.
Alright, happy swallow.
Okay, scratch that. SB 2026 relating to traffic safety HD1. Okay, so for this one, we heard it previously in the committee. So to continue the discussion, I wanna adopt HD1 for this one. I wanna insert the Attorney General's recommended amendment, but also add the applicable non-conflicting language of HB 1692 HD2. That was the language about the pickup trucks. I know the Senate's gonna continue hearing this measure, but for the purpose of consistency, that's what I wanna do. And tech amendments for clarity, consistency, style, HMSO the effective date. Members, questions, comments, or concerns?
So on this 2026, I love the bill, I really do, I think it's a much needed bill, I'm going to reservations because in this bill where it says 20 miles below speed limit and some of the other requirements that they wanna do is just unrealistic and it could potentially cause more harm. If you're on a 55 mile an hour and then somebody realizes they're late and they gotta jam on their brakes. So, I mean, if some of that can be changed, I'm an absolute yes, but for now, I'm just reservations
Okay,
because of
just
that.
to make sure I don't misspeak, Rep. Moroka, the AG's testimony actually strikes that language, so it's just gonna be to slow down.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then what about the part where it says,
And it's as if possible to do and safe to do so, make a lane change to adjacent lane.
Okay.
And the driver shall come to complete stop if necessary. So I think that's why AG is trying to give clarification. To your point, I don't think it's, if we're talking about enforceability, what they're trying to accomplish is not enforceable, but at least with this, it gives more flexibility to the driver.
okay, if that's in there, then I'm a yes.
Okay. Members, further questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, Vice Chair for the vote, please.
Voting on SB 2026 SD2, the recommendation is to pass with amendments. Any reservations? Any no votes? Seeing none, the recommendation is adopted.
Thank you. Okay, previously SB 2463 relating to the use of intoxicants while operating a vehicle. My previous comments still stand, wanting to move this measure forward, adopting HD1 and affecting the effective date. Members, questions, comments, or concerns? Rep.
Sure,
Cochran.
thank you, and I support it, I think, sorry, you said intoxicants, so this isn't just, I mean, it's pointing to alcohol. But I
Yes.
think, and I didn't wanna get into too much questioning, cause we were, trying to get along, but the combination of, prescription medications that mixed with alcohol, and I just wondering if testing for that, and also, there's responsibilities in Kuleana of liquor dispensers. From your bars, your restaurants, your grocery store outlets, your liquor stores and people, so, they play a part too in all this. For preventative mitigative measures to just not even get that person on the road to begin with. So I didn't, really drill any departments or MPD or anybody about, or sorry, HPD about this, but it's just my comments.
No, and to your point, I just do wanna clarify that the language is specific to blood alcohol content for the influence of a alcohol substance,
Right.
nothing more.
Okay.
I do wanna add for context, there was a bill I drafted but did not introduce this year that would have prohibited anybody with a liquor license from assessing or charging a fee for the purpose and consuming of water for that exact point. I did not introduce it this year, but I plan to, if we can continue discussion next year, to do something like that. Cause to your point, if people are going to try to make safe decisions, water is a big part of that and that should not come into a factor. But to also acknowledge, right, I know that it doesn't help that the Honolulu Police Department has faced scrutiny around the DUI's process, but I wanna keep that independent from what the bill is trying to accomplish. And I want to just further request that our police do the best that they can so that there will still continued trust around the effectiveness of DUI stops and checkpoints. So,
Yep, good.
thank you, Rep. Cochran. Members, any further questions, comments, or concerns? Vice Chair for the vote, please.
Voting on SB 2463 SD1, the recommendation is to pass with amendments. Any reservation? Any no votes? Seeing none, the recommendation is adopted.
Thank you. SB 2253 relating to highway safety. I wanna adopt the HD1 of this measure and just affect the effective date for purposes to continue the discussion. Vice Chair for, members, questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, Vice Chair for the vote, please.
Voting on SB 2253 SD2, the recommendation is to pass with amendments. Are there any reservations? Any no votes? Seeing none, the recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, members. SB 2392 SD2 relating to traffic safety. For this one, I want to adopt an HD1. For this one, we're gonna do the effective date and tech amendments for clarity, consistency, and style. And I just wanna thank the introducers in the Senate for continuing to have the discussion. I think the next several bills, they all have some juxtaposition and nexus to each other on traffic safety. And so I just wanna thank them for helping further the dialogue for this committee. So with that, members, questions, comments, or concerns?
Chair, I'm a yes on this, but I would love to have removed the highly. I just feel like intoxicated is enough. It's just, for me, it gives a loophole to get out of it in court.
I take your comment, well, Rep. Moroka. I know there was another bill that tried to actually further define what is highly intoxicated. But I think for this measure, I'm just gonna continue leaving it in, but to your point, right, drunk is drunk, and once you pass the legal blood limit, that should be enough.
And I just say that because two bills earlier, we're trying to lower it, right? And then over here, we use the word highly, so it's just really confusing when you look at it like that. But I'm still a yes, it's a good bill.
Thank you, Rep. Members, any further questions, comments, or concerns?
I think I'm
Rep. Rentinetti.
thank you. I think I'm WR on this, just citing the public defender's testimony, but I think all of these measures I know are really important for furthering the conversation about how to shift behavior.
Thank you, Rep. Rep. Did you get anything? No, okay. Okay, seeing no further discussion,
Sorry.
oh, Rep. Cochran.
Sure, same recommendation from me too, just cause the added more jury trials they anticipate due to this, but very supportive otherwise, so, okay, that's all.
Thank you, Reps. I appreciate that. Yeah, I wanna acknowledge that none of this is a silver bullet, but
Of course,
let's see what we can continue to further the discussion as these will be going to the next committee for consideration. And I hope Chair Tarnas will try to move a couple of these. Members, seeing no further discussion, Vice Chair for the vote, please.
Voting on SB 2392 SD2, noting Representative Grandinetti and Cochran's reservations. Any other reservation? Any no votes? Seeing none, the recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, members. SB 2991 SD1 related to highway safety. So members, let's adopt the HD1 on this one. We're gonna adopt the amendments put forth. The amendments put forth by HDOT in their comments. I'm also gonna clarify, there are references to vessel throughout the bill that does not fit with the title. So as vessel is defined in section 291E-1 HRS as a watercraft, so I just going to amend the references of vessel to motor vehicle for the purpose of this bill. I'm gonna defect the effective date and then to further amendments for clarity, consistency, style technically. Members, questions, comments, or concerns? Vice Chair for the vote. Oh, sorry, real quick. I wanna know in the committee report, the requested the effective date should this move forward and the judiciary's comments that potential resources, further resources may be needed. Vice Chair for the vote.
Voting on SB 2991 SD1, the recommendation is to pass with amendments. Are there any reservations? Was that a reservation?
Oh, no.
Oh, okay. Any no votes?
Already, yeah? I saw your hand. I saw
your finger.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
Recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, members. SB 299, we just did that, sorry. SB 2812, SD1 related to transportation safety. Members, for this one, I wanna adopt the HD1. I wanna take Attorney General's testimony as submitted for amendments. HM sold to defect the effective date on this measure. And I wanna clarify that this will require a person who commit the offense of excessive speeding to retake. I'm gonna strike the language of habitually driving while intoxicated because at that point their license probably is getting revoked and they have to go through a whole different process. But for excessive speeding, I think that should trigger the retesting. SB 2812, tech amendments for clarity, consistency, and style. Members, questions, comments, or concerns?
Sure.
Rep. Cochran.
You said AG's comments, were they the ones that said this is not needed because there's already you know, enough, what, I don't know, laws in place to address this or something? Someone said it's not needed, or like,
Yes, but they had
was that,
provided.
who was that though, sorry?
I can't remember off the top of my
Was that
head.
AG? Okay, I
But they
just,
did provide language for the committee to adopt if we're trying to move the bill forward.
okay, alright,
So-
that was my notes
Yeah.
and concerns at this point.
Cause I think that was my intent though, by striking the language of the retesting for driving intoxicated.
Oh, right, yes, yes, okay, got it.
And pretty much it's just for the testing requirement now of
Mhm.
people who commit excessive speeding and then just the knowledge part of driver's license for larger vehicles and what they pose to pedestrians, bicyclists.
Okay, good.
Members, further
Chair.
question, comments or concerns? Vice
Chair,
Chair, I mean, yeah.
If I may, can I get the same, sorry, can I get you to add, same argument as last week about the speeding first time, can we do a two-time? Only because if somebody's wife is giving birth, if somebody's kid is sick and they trying to get them to the hospital, that doesn't make them a bad person, that makes them a caring parent or a family member. And if you get pulled over one time and you gotta redo it, that's kinda crazy, but I understand if you do it twice.
I'm gonna leave it. So let me clarify, excessive speeding is charged when anybody is going over the posted speed limit of 30 miles per hour in excess and or 80 miles per hour. That is excessive speeding, that's not normal speeding. So for that purpose, I'm gonna leave it because I feel like that's clearly set out HRS. That's different from somebody normally, I don't wanna say normally speeding or that would get pulled over for speeding, but excessive speeding, 25 miles an hour, 30 plus, that's 55 into 25. That's 80 anywhere else, so I think that's pretty fair. Sorry, Brett.
No worries.
But thank you.
That's just my point.
Not for me. Members, further questions, comments or concerns?
Just another comment to
Period.
piggyback off. We might have a lot of community members that drive 80 miles an hour on the normal. Someone to vote no.
Okay. The highest posted speed limit we have on Island Oahu is 60 miles an hour. So everything else is pretty much 55, 50 and 45. Members, further questions, comments or concerns? Vice Chair for the vote, please.
Voting on SB 2812 SD1, the recommendation is to pass with amendments. Are there any reservations? Reservations for Rep. Muraoka. Noting Rep. Herrick's no vote, any other no votes? Seeing none, the recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, members. SB 2429, SD1 rate to traffic safety. We heard this measure in another omnibus vehicle, but I'm gonna continue moving this one forward. I know Hawaii Island is a sensitive matter because of the incidents that have occurred over the interim. But so for this one, I wanna adopt the HD1. This is what we did in the previous committee, so I'm gonna adopt the AG's testimony as our umbrella. And I requested amendments for Smart Start and Sanhai on just clarity of responsibility. Tech amendments for clarity, consistency and style, and HMSO to the effective date. Members, questions, comments or concerns?
Sure, did you say adding AG's?
Yes, so they will be the umbrella lead and then applying the affected requested amendments from Smart Start and Sanhai on the clarity of responsibility.
Okay. Alright, thank you.
Thank you. Members, further question, comments or concerns? Vice Chair for the vote,
Voting
please.
on SB 2429 SD1, the recommendation is to pass with amendments. Are there any reservations? Any no votes? Seeing none, the recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, members. SB 2896 SD1 relating to commercial driver's license. I wanna thank the senator for introducing this measure when we talked about it in this committee. For purpose of this one has gotten kind of convoluted, I'd like to continue moving the House vehicle as our vehicle for this measure. So SB 2896, members, I'm gonna defer this one. Members, next bill, SB 299 SD1 HD1 relating to clean fuel standard. I need to talk to the previous committee. When the House bill was heard, we were the lead committee and I put in language that I was comfortable with moving this bill forward. We are the middle committee on this one, and in House policy, custom and practice, the first committee has to give consent for amendment. So I need to talk to the first committee chair. So for this one, I'm gonna defer decision making on this matter to this Friday, 10:30 AM in this committee on the posted agenda appropriately. And members, SB 3029, same thing, we're gonna defer decision making to Friday, 10:30 AM. Members, I'm thanking you so much, 9 minutes to spare, see you folks on Friday.